It's a Saturday morning. It's just about a minute to 9. So the mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI, is kicking off. And this morning, as usual, we'll be bringing you a discussion, very frank, well-reasoned, and open discussion on the issues that dominated the news bulletins over the week. And I'll be introducing my distinguished panel that will be doing that today. But before I do that, just a couple of things to deal with. First is the newspaper headlines. But let me first, my name is Senna Nombo. Show is produced by Patrick Asford Boydu and is live on Pub MCGH on Facebook. And I just hope you're having a wonderful morning. It's been a very, very interesting week. Started very slowly, picked up quite fast. And as at the end of yesterday, we're still watching to see what will happen. And some interesting news also coming in from Nigeria, because they were supposed to be having elections today. All of a sudden, 5 hours to the start of the elections, the Independent National Elections Commission decided that they were not fully prepared. So they called off everything. And so the elections will not be coming on. They've been postponed for 5 more days. I think 1 week. 1 week, for 1 more week to put their house in order. It's quite interesting that an election commission just realizes that they are unprepared just 5 hours to the poll. So we are watching what is happening there in Nigeria. They have an unprecedented number of presidential candidates. Unbelievable. But welcome to Ghana, and we'll be talking about the issues that are happening within Ghana. We have our own issues too. Discuss, but it's quite interesting to watch a fellow sub-region country and the way they are handling their own issues. Well, but let's start with the Spectator newspaper in terms of newspaper headlines. And the Spectator has "Choose life, not sex. Hypertensive men told." Also, teaching people to speak in tongues for fee. And relationship and lifestyle coach Miss Nancy shares her story. And also there's something Love Month promo that is in the Spectator today. The Ghanaian Times has President declares Western North OT new regions. Sekwiwi also Dambai named regional capitals. Also, who will be next president? Nigeria decides. At the Commission of Inquiry into Ayawaso by-election violence, no policeman was assaulted during by-election. Jean Mensah. 5 killed, 6 injured in Aduajiri accidents. And also, court refuses bail for killers of Tema port official. Finally, the Daily Graphic has Ghana now has 16 regions. Western North, OT complete journey. Mahama sued over re-election. And also, motorbike dispute sparked Ayawaso West war gun violence. That's according to the district commander, East Legon Police. And also, patronage of train shuttle growing, but passengers say 5 Ghana cities flat fare high. So those are on the front pages of the Daily Graphic newspaper. If you're interested in any of those stories, you can go and read them for yourself, especially the development that came in just last night, yesterday evening, the indication that the former president has been sued for for raising funds. Basically, what I've read in the Daily Graphic, the basis of the suit is that he's raising funds for his re-election bid, and that forms the basis for some constitutional violations that he wants the High Court to address. Is by a businessman who has taken the matter to court. So you can read the story in the Daily Graphic. But if you just join us, listening to the mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI, live on our affiliates across the country, on GFM Radio in London and on Radio Gold 905.com. We are live on Sekpele 104.3 in Likwe. We are live on Diamond FM 93.7 in Tamale. We are live on Radio Commando 102.5 in Kwando, Lukusi Radio 96.1 in Vego, Lukwati, Shine FM 96.9 in Akachi, GFM Radio in London, Radio Kita 95.7 in Saboba. I also know we are live on Hugbe FM in Angola. I also know we are live on a number of affiliates whose names we do not have. A big thank you to all of you, and for ensuring that your listeners get to listen to the discussion that will be happening this morning. The show is produced by Kulun Ghana Limited. Now, Kulun Ghana Limited is offering a range of products. What they are offering you are natural remedies for some of the situations you face in life. Mr. Q is one of the products they are offering. It's for vitality and for men who want to improve their sexual performance. King tablets is for high blood pressure, and also Arababazin for control of menstrual problems in women. So those are the products that Mr. Q is offering. They are natural remedies. You don't have to worry about side effects. And mobile water says I should tell you that water is life and life is one. The choices you make can enhance or diminish these limited resources called life. Now, that's why they're asking you to make the right choice. Choose mobile water 20 liters bottles. It is an instant refill door-to-door delivery service. And you can call their hotline 0244-650-939 for instant supply. Or you can visit them at Tema Headlight Industrial Area behind McBaron Hotel, Aplawo Road. This arrangement simply means that if you enter the arrangement with them, they'll deliver 20 liters water bottles to you. When they get finished, they will come and refill them, and then you can use them. And they said it's the best move you can make today. So just give them a call, 0244-650-939 for your instant supply. And then Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise, if you walk into any Franco Trading Enterprise shop, you're looking for a phone, any amount you're holding, you can get a phone to buy. They sell very affordable but high quality phones. So whatever your expectations are, whatever your demands, whatever type of phone you want, you get at Franco Trading Enterprise. They've also asked me to tell you that their Alcatel phones have been reduced, and you can check out their Alcatel One, Alcatel U3, Alcatel tablets, and you'll get them at very competitive prices at any of their shops. But that's not all. If you're one of those who like to order online, you can use the www.francotrading.com or www.francophones.com website. Make an order online. Alternatively, you can also use their mobile app, Franco Trading app. Download it on Google Play. When you do that, you make an order. They'll give you a 30% discount on the product you choose. That's not all. If you live within Accra, they'll deliver it to you for free anywhere you are. But you can walk into any of the Franco Trading shops. They are at Adabraka opposite Roxy Cinema bus stop. They are at Accra UTC roundabout behind the Despite building. They are at La Paz near Niboy Junction opposite Prudential Bank. Circle close to Odor Rice. Also opposite Echo Bank, Oxford Street. Tema opposite Water West Community 1. Madina on the Old Road opposite HFC Bank. Hacho opposite Hacho Station. Koforidua on the All Nations University College Road. Ho on the Market Road opposite Amagashi Building, and Kasua, they are opposite the Kasua Polyclinic. You can call them on 0302 225 651, 0302 225 651, and 0546 133 188. Franco Trading, phone Pepe Fie, and also TT Brothers. They are retailers of the Uncle T Malt, Tango Fruit Juice, and also the Uncle T Energy drink, among several others. So let me now introduce my panelists for today. Well, we're hoping to be joined by Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who's managing editor of the Insight newspaper. We already have in the studio lawyer Godwin Eduji Kujo Tameklo, who is a private legal practitioner. We also have in the studio Mr. Emmanuel Wilson, who is Director of Communications of the People's National Convention. And we have Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who is a former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry and a former Member of Parliament for Nanton constituency. And they will assist us. Yes, he's Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed says I should tell you that he plans to contest for Tamale Central constituency. He'll put himself up and hope that the NDC picks him as their candidate for the 2020 parliamentary elections in Tamale Central. Well, they will be assisting us to discuss the following topics. Now, we'll be looking at the work of the Commission of Inquiry into the Ayawaso West War on Violence. Don't forget that the three men in charge of national security, Honorable Ambrose Derry for the Interior, National Security Minister Honorable Kandapa, Mr. Brian Champon, who is in charge of security, a Minister of State in charge of national security, operating from the presidency. They all appeared before the commission. Also appearing yesterday was Madam Jean Mensah, who is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. And then we also had DSP George Asari, who is in charge of the East Legon Police. And we had DCOP Alex Mensah, who is Director of Operations of the Ghana Police Service. They have been given evidence of what they saw on the ground or what they've been told. And so we'll be discussing what they have been saying. And also there's a call from the IGP for the disbandment of vigilante groups. This is not the first time he's made this call. He's made this call several times, and at some point in time he promised to ensure that those groups are disbanded and to deal with the activities when they are illegal. Well, he's made that call again, and so we'll be talking about that issue too. That is our very first topic. And then the second topic, the president has been holding some ceremonies, in fact held some ceremonies at the Flagstaff House across the week, 3 days in total. What he's been doing is hosting the chiefs and people from the newly created 6 regions, giving them their CI and signing what is necessary to make those regions operational. So we'll be talking about the newly created regions and perhaps what is needed to ensure they function properly. And if we have time, we'll take optional comments. My name is Sana, and the show is produced by Patrick Asford Boyd. We are live on PAB MCGH. You can join us with your thoughts through our WhatsApp number 0233 995905, 0233 995905. And alternatively, if you're watching us through Facebook, just share your thoughts with us. Use the comment section, share your thoughts, I'll read them out. So let's start the discussion. Let's start with Lawyer Godwin Eduji Kujo Tamekulu. Good morning.
Okay. So now, good morning to you, Sana, and good morning to your able producer, the almighty Patrick.
The Chief Executive Officer of PAB MCGH.
I'm telling you, he's a big man.
Very
you see, anytime you see ALHAJI and ALHAJI, very successful program, the brain behind the success is no other person but Patrick Ashford Boydu. We don't hear him. We don't see him. What we see are the invisible hands. He's not part of the invisible forces, but you can see his work. Patrick, continue the good work. And the other assistants. And the boss himself.
Yes.
Yes. You know. Let me say a good morning to Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, my own brother Emmanuel Wilson. And wherever Uncle Kwesi is, a good morning to him. We are waiting for him to join us so that we can always listen to the fountain of knowledge and wisdom. I listened partly to him. That should be on Thursday.
Yes.
At the forum.
Yeah,
and
also Presby Home.
Absolutely, and as usual, he brought so much perspective to the issue. And the glorious ardent listeners of Radio Gold. To some, listening to ALHAJI and ALHAJI is a ritual. If they don't listen to it on Saturday, the weekend is not complete.
In fact, I met one man yesterday called Mr. Paul Thompson. He said he's also known as Servant. He was quite full of praise for the work that is done on ALHAJI and ALHAJI, especially to the panelists that turn up.
Yes.
Very impressed.
And there are people, like I said, they listen to ALHAJI and ALHAJI to the point of religiosity. To them, we say, Ayuko, you have made this program what it is from the time it started. Now, having said that, let me use this opportunity to respond to some preliminary matters. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, you saw one of the stories that relate to the fact that a certain Stephen Ajiman guy had issued a writ at the High Court against John Dramani Mahama on the face of it. And if you're carefully reading of the pleadings as put in the Daily Graphic, you can see that this is much ado about nothing. It is a suit obviously coming from the external corroborators of this dubious administration, of this government that has come to the inevitable conclusion that they are leaving power in 2020, and therefore had devised this strategy, as it were, to confuse the issues. In fact, this whole suit was perfectly timed, and the whole idea, and today let me let the delegates of our party know something. One of the reasons for the delay of the internal primaries of the party was that the national security and others were preparing this particular suit, because they had then taken the view that if this thing had happened earlier, there was no way this suit was going to happen. So this suit that went to the court that eventually led to the postponement of the election, all of these things were calculated. And the whole idea is that a week today, Saturday, the delegates of the NDC will be voting. And so if you push in the suit now, the delegates, quote unquote, will be confused. Oh, there is a suit. Oh, won't it affect him? If we vote for him, won't it affect him? Blah, blah, blah. So this is a work of the national security. The Akufo-Addo administration had come to the irresistible conclusion that they are leaving office. It matters not now. Where we have gotten to now, one leg is already out. It is a little effort and hard work to take the other leg. The elephant is definitely going to fight. And so this whole suit, let no delegate of our party be mistaken. It is a national security sponsored suit with the sole purpose of disrupting the issues, confusing delegates of our party. And let me also put on record that within this week, I mean from Monday going, some presidential aspirants in the NDC race will be using this suit, as it were, to tell delegates that don't vote for John Mahama. So I am pleading with the delegates of our party that the MPP know the one that can take power from them, and they know it is John Dramani Mahama. And so what they have decided to do is to throw this one in. Because, look, if you are asking for constitutional enforcement and interpretation, it's basic. Every lawyer knows that at least you should go to the Supreme Court. You understand me? You are a court reporter. If you want interpretation and enforcement of the Constitution, you know that the Supreme Court has the exclusive original jurisdiction. So this Stephen Ajiman, his intention is not to advance the cause of the law, but to do political mischief. And so I am, pleading with the delegates of our party that in these few days, like they say, last minutes are dangerous. These things will be coming up. Some presidential aspirants in the NDC will come to you. In fact, they will be sending you copies of this suit, telling you that, oh, Papa na mose mo beto amano krana na omudi suit yaba no. What you say? So it's a whole mind game, that this whole suit. And so it's important that this mischief is exposed. It's important that we let the delegates of our party know that all the MPP are afraid of is that on the 6th, on 23rd of February, the delegates of our party will give John Dramani Mahama nothing less than 95% to send a strong message that the entire party is solidly behind John Dramani Mahama. And I'm convinced that we'll start singing our famous song, "The victory of the NDC is coming again." And the people will say, "Ehe Jo Bodo." Now, having said that, may I proceed quickly to the matters involving the Commission of Inquiry, now known as the Emil Shorts Commission of Inquiry. I have known Commissioner Shorts for a while now. Remember that for a long time he was an appointee of former President Rawlings. You remember at Strach. He subsequently got some international appointments, went and came back, and now he is whatever he is doing. We also do know that Mr. Patrick Achampong, a seasoned lawyer, a former IGP, and if you recall, it was under his tenure that the MV Benjamin matter happened. You recall? Yes, and then there was the Georgina Wood Commission that looked into it. Eventually, he went on retirement. I have picked certain information, subject to further verification, that having retired from the police service, he assisted the NPP tremendously in terms of their internal security arrangements towards the 2012 and 2016 elections. So quite clearly, he's not a mean person. Then my own professor, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, very distinguished professor of law, and former dean of the Faculty of Law as well. So in terms of what she comes across relative to the law, she's not a mean person. It's important to also say that the commission, several reservations have been raised about the commission beyond its composition, and one of the issues relates to the fundamental fact that this is a commission that is flowing from an election, and therefore it is important that the composition of the commission itself ought to have been widened to include a more security-oriented person and a more, somebody with a deeper knowledge of electoral matters. So, for instance, you could have invited Afarijan to be a member of this particular commission, so he can bring his deep expertise relative to management of elections to bear, or any other person with certain knowledge of. And then the famous Quintum Kwanzaa, the former BNI boss, with his deep knowledge of security matters, so that at the end you can have a certain perspective, or a military general, because you saw military persons also around, so you can have a better perspective on the issue. It's important to also indicate that the NDC much earlier had indicated its reservation, one, about the composition, and what appears to be the possible results of the findings of this commission of inquiry. Significant, the NDC had indicated that as we speak, there is a judgment of the Supreme Court, the High Court, a judgment or a ruling delivered by His Lordship, Justice Mafosal, then a Court of Appeal judge who was given additional responsibility. Currently, he is a Supreme Court judge. That ruling that he has delivered is still in the law books. The state appealed against it, the state laws, and so, as we say, it's still good law until it has been set aside by an appellate superior court. It's important that for the purposes of my submission, I read the conclusions that Justice Mafosal reached, so that the discussion can properly be informed. And I quote, "It is, however, a matter of judicial notice that persons against whom adverse findings were made by commissions of inquiry into the Yendi events and the Commission of Inquiry into the Accra Sports Stadium disaster were prosecuted in the High Court. Notwithstanding the clear provisions of Article 280 of the Constitution, which clearly represent the aspirations of the great men and women who engineered our 1969, 1979, and 1992 constitutions. The aspiration being that findings, very important, findings of commissions of inquiry should never develop into criminal trials. Flowing from the aspirations of the framers of our constitution that the findings of commissions of inquiry are not to develop into criminal trial, I find that the Ghana at 50 Commission of Inquiry itself respectively erred when it recommended that government may prosecute the applicant herein. So quite clearly, the position of the High Court and the Attorney General is deemed to know the laws of this country. The position taken by the court is that under no circumstance should the adverse findings of the commissions of inquiry be developed into criminal prosecution. So now the position the NDC took was this: if there is a ruling of the court that will be a potential impediment to the use of the findings of the commission for the purposes of criminal prosecution, why then do you go on that tangent? Because at the end of the day, as the court has taken the position, you cannot do anything about it. There is a roadblock ahead of the state. It has also been said that what happened on that day was pure criminality, nothing beyond that. First of all, you do know that under the Intelligence and Securities Agencies Act 1996, the position of the law is that the National Security Council Secretariat is established, okay, and the head of the Council Secretariat is the National Security Coordinator. He is answerable to the National Security Council, chaired by the President of the Republic of Ghana. Now, under the Intelligence and then the Securities Agencies Act, under no circumstance whatsoever should the National Security Council Secretariat maintain a standby army or armed force. In fact, if you look at Article 85 of the 1992 Constitution, it provides a categorical injunction against the establishment of any armed force except by an act of parliament. And that is why the police is established by an act of parliament. The Ghana Armed Forces is established by an act of parliament. Until recently, persons who were even employed as custom officers could not deploy firearm until the act was amended to allow them to carry firearm. The national security as established, the council as established by act, does not have the power to maintain any standby force. So, as testified by Mr. Kandapa, that the Director of Operations of the National Security Council Secretariat, Colonel Matthew Opoku, was the one who deployed these armed thugs for the sole purposes of unleashing violence on innocent Ghanaians. Quite clearly, that amounts to an infraction of the laws of this country, which is very criminal. So having established that, one wonders why the Republic would want to spend taxpayers' money with the Commission of Inquiry, when the IGP could have just been called, take criminal statements from the persons so involved, and proceed with a criminal prosecution of the persons involved. Two, if you are not a member of the regular forces, and let this point be made, what the National Security Council Secretariat does is to coordinate intelligence, So having coordinated those intelligence, what it does is that if it notices that there is a problem here, is to reach out to the IGP. That we have noticed a flashpoint here. Can you send your men to go and do it? Or call the Chief of Defense Staff and say, can you go and do that? That is what happens. The Security Council Secretariat itself does not have the power to maintain a standby force that it can deploy, as was done in the case of the Ayawaso West Wuogon violence. It's important to also maintain that this is what informed the NDC's initial position, that if at the end of the day we cannot use the adverse findings for the purposes of criminal prosecution, then why in God's name, why in God's name would we therefore want to go by way of this tedious criminal prosecuting processes, so that at the end of the day, having expended, you generate a very fat report, and that report you cannot use it in the court of law. And therefore it was a deliberate, calculated attempt by the government of Ghana, led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to provide immunity for these hoodlums, bandits, and thugs that were unleashed on innocent Ghanaians. I mean, we have all come to the conclusion that these men, and it's important, let me put the Director of Operations, Ghana Police Service, DCOP, Alex Mensah, he also appeared before the Commission of Inquiry. Much earlier, he had granted an interview when the event happened. He has stated categorically that they do not, the guys who wear masks are not members of the Ghana Police Service. It is also on record that these are not members of the Ghana Armed Forces. Let it also be put on record that they are not members of the Ghana Immigration Service. They are also not members of the Customs Service as well. So these men do not belong to any of the established security agencies to have participated in this reckless act of violence and impunity. I have always maintained that the young men we saw on that day had National Security Council on boldly written on whatever they were wearing. You saw it. The pictorial evidence is there. Now these men, and we do know also that it is the president who chairs the National Security Council. So I want to ask a simple question. Were these men deployed by the president, since he's the chair of the National Security Council? Because you cannot, for instance, me, Eduji, I cannot just wake up and put NSC on my shirt with gun, the small pistol, put it here and be moving around town. I cannot do that. So for these guys to be bold to do whatever they did, it tells you. Now you also have a situation where the Interior Minister appeared before the Commission of Inquiry, and I'm speaking in relation to Senior Ambrose Derry. Now when he appeared before the Commission of Inquiry, he made it clear that that vehicle that we saw these bandits, these thugs, armed with firearm in, is not from the Ghana police. Because he even goes further to say that the Ghana Police Service, they have an inventory of the vehicles, and that the number plates of that particular vehicle does not correspond. I mean the Hunter vehicle that was used. You saw it. You saw the Hunter vehicle. He indicated that he had checked from the IGP. They have looked through their inventory and they cannot have record of that particular Hunter vehicle in their inventory. But you saw boldly written on that Hunter vehicle, Ghana Police. You saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my difficulty is that beyond the fact that the reckless conduct of these young men has undermined the rule of law and the respect for save, it does also compromise the integrity, the respect that ordinary citizens have for Ghana police. And this is how it takes place. When a police officer stops me in traffic, by law and by his crown, I'm supposed to stop and obey his instructions. You agree with me? Now, when you have a situation where you can see a vehicle with the inscription Ghana Police, and we are told that it does not belong to Ghana Police. Tomorrow when I see somebody with the same vehicle, why should I respect that person? Because now you cannot tell the regular Ghana Police Service vehicle from vehicle employed by armed bandits and thugs. You cannot do that. When you have such a situation, what it does is that it even compromises the integrity of the Ghana police. Look, I have worked with very respected police officers in my course as a lawyer, and other matters I've had to rely on the police. They are very decent and respected police officers out there. They need the involvement of citizens in order to carry out their constitutional and statutory mandates. But where you have the situation where the President of the Republic of Ghana, through his assigns and agents, will deploy and employ these armed bandits, party vigilante groups, into so-called national security for the sole purposes of unleashing violence and more violence on ordinary citizens, what it does is that it puts the president, his incompetence, his ineptitude right at the forefront. And it's important that that is critically examined. Senna, you do know that in this republic, the president of the republic is supposed to have overall command. We have maintained that the conduct of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, now president with respect, in maintaining and encouraging, financing and sponsoring these tax for the sole purposes of first, cajoling, intimidating his internal political opponents. And you saw what they did to the lives of Chairman Afoko, what they did to the lives of Kabna J.J. Paul, what they did to persons who disagreed with Nana Addo in the MPP, to the point that in opposition, the MPP headquarters essentially became an outpost of insecurity. It did not end there. Having become president, we saw how this armed thugs assaulted a senior police officer in the office of the president, I mean the seat of the executive arm of government, Flagstaff House. And I'm talking about Nanka Bruce. You remember that incident? Do you know that when that incident took place, instead of our president ensuring that impunity, that bravado, that share, use of force is stopped, you know what the president and his security apparatus rather did? They arrested the people manning the CCTV, the closed circuit room, and said the video footage of the assault of Nanka Bruce was presumably, leaked from where they work, and therefore they were responsible. A president who, at his inauguration, employed all of us, told all of us that you must be citizens and not spectators. When we have video footage of an assault of a senior police officer, it is rather the persons who were manning that were rather the subject of investigation. It didn't end there. We saw a situation where the president himself, having appointed a security coordinator for Ashanti region, this man was assaulted and dragged out of his office by these terror groups associated with the NPP, financed and encouraged by the president. It did not end there. When these men were taken to a court of competent jurisdiction, we saw what happened. These guys had the audacity, the impunity, for the first time, 1992, to storm a court, to attack a court duly, constituted, to free men who were under lawful custody. It did not end there. We saw NPP young men storm the police station in Karaga, freed men, NPP members who were under lawful custody, and rather locked the police officers up. We have seen, under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a growing trend of lawlessness, party-armed men who have decided to take the law into their own hands. The murder of it all was what happened 31st January. And that day, I think the NDC must commemorate repeatedly that day. It is a sad day in the annals of this country. But you see, Senna, there's something that I think the NDC should thank the Almighty God for. God, in his infinite wisdom, has exposed a grand plot and scheme by the NPP. One, to undermine the lawfully established security agencies. Two, to deploy these armed thugs on the 7th day, 7th December 2020. And it is God that has exposed this. Look at the testimony of the East Legon police commander, DSP Asari. Before the commission of inquiry, Mr. Kandapa had appeared before the commission and said, unquote, that only 6 shots of whatever ammunitions were shot out there. This was his testimony, unchallenged. It's also on record that Mr. Kandapa was not even in Ghana when the event happened. Let it also be placed on record that Mr. Kandapa did not even know about the deployments. Let it be placed on record. The police officer whose jurisdiction the event happened now comes before the commission and says, look, from what he witnessed, over 20 to 30 rounds of firearm were shot. So now, between the man who was not there, like Dr. Bamia, you and I were not there, and the police officer DSP Asari, who was there, in fact, he was in the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate, he witnessed everything. The man comes to contradict everything that, and I'm afraid for him, that after this commission of inquiry, this man will be removed. Did you observe, curiously, the attempt by Mr. Patrick Achampong, the former IGP, to rather undermine and intimidate DSP Asari before the commission? At a point, I was asking myself, Mr. Former IGP, are you desirous of knowing the honest truths, the facts surrounding? In fact, if you look at his questioning of Mr. DSP Asari, he was effectively intimidating the man. He was effectively telling him, man, why are you being so ruthlessly frank? But what Mr. Patrick Achampong had forgotten is that line in our national anthem. He said we should cherish fearless honesty. Do you know that line? So when a service officer comes before a commission of inquiry and decide not to lie, decide to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, a member of the commission now takes upon himself more or less to do damage control for government. Look, when Mr. Kandapa, Honorable, testified before the commission, he was categorical that nobody was injured in the process. Meanwhile, we have all seen the blood. Over 20 young men were shot, at least my record, or more, were shot in the process. How in God's name can Mr. Kandapa now comes to say this never happened? Let me just say one thing about the Electoral Commission. Mr. Jane Mensah, Madam, I want to use this opportunity. I know you are my senior, way senior at the bar. But you see, you have been involved in a lot of NGO work through your Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, together with your husband. Together with your husband. For me, as an NDC member, I knew the nature of your work and how it affected the NDC. I don't have any doubt about it. But having assumed the position of a public officer, we expect you, with the greatest respect, to look Ghanaians and now know you are no longer the ordinary private citizen. In fact, remember that under the constitutional arrangement, one office that is so much insulated is the office of the Electoral Commission chairperson. Yes, you are provided significant constitutional insulation from interference of any other authority except the courts of this country. So, Madam Jane, first of all, this armed thugs started their activities from the University of Ghana campus. From Commonwealth, they came to Sabah. In fact, it was on campus that Edem Agbana was assaulted. Let that be placed on record. So where you come, and remember, where Sam George Honorable was assaulted was just less than 20 meters from the ballot box. So for you to come and say that the event that took place, my office in East Legon, I saw them all over the place. I saw them all over the place. To the extent that Madam Jane will now come and say that this was just an isolated matter and it never affected. What she didn't know was that the Electoral Commission head for the Ayaso West Wogon area had granted an interview on GH1 where he said, as a result of the violence in Baaleshi, even the election was affected for over 30 to 40 minutes. How in God's name would you therefore come out to say the observation made by an independent election observation committee, CODEO, is not accurate where you were not there? So, Madam Jane, the manner and the way you are going, we cherish our electoral processes. We have sacrificed 25 years to come this far. Please do not do anything to undermine the smooth running. Just 1 minute. Former President John Dramani Mahama had the occasion of meeting members of the diplomatic community and to put certain matters into proper perspective before this committee. In fact, what he put before the committee were videos that were already out there in public. He did not manufacture any of the videos that were used in the PowerPoint presentation. Now, I have heard that Osafo Macmillan Safo Mafo, you remember that Macmillan deal? Osafo Macmillan Mafo has come out to say that for former President John Dramani Mahama to engage the diplomatic community, he had engaged in an unpatriotic act. First of all, Osafo Mafo, from the day this event happened, has never condemned the violence in Ayawaso. He's never done that. from 31st of January to the time he responded to former. He has never condemned it. Osafo is far ahead of me in terms of age and what have you. 76 years of age now. He has less to lose as far as Ghana is concerned. So, for him to consider an exercise that exposes violence to be unpatriotic, it is rather his conduct that is unpatriotic. Unless, of course, Mr. Yaosafo is telling me that the deployment of armed men by the National Security Council Secretariat, armed thugs and bandits by the National Security Council Secretariat is rather an act of patriotism. I disagree. And let me put on record that if I were former President John Dramani Mahama, I would have even called BBC and Al Jazeera, CNN, to come for this particular engagement. In any case, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and that is the hypocrisy and the double standard of the NPP. You recall, before the 2016 election, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo went to the US. He appeared before the Charter House, Heritage Foundation, where he spoke extensively about election to be 2016 election. When he was speaking on those international platforms, what was he doing to Ghana? Osama said John Mahama had painted Ghana black. Let me set the record straight. John Dramani Mahama never painted Ghana black. What he did was to expose the irresponsibility of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. What John Mahama did was to expose the armed thuggery, the armed vigilante groups, those thugs and bandits. If this is unpatriotism, then Osafo has missed his way.
Yeah,
I'll end here.
Yes. Well, let me do just a couple of messages from our Facebook platform. King Farouk says our president and his EC chair have all said the Ayawaso West election was very peaceful, free and fair. So why fret when John Mahama is showing free and fair videos to diplomats? Is it not a plus for government that their good work is being displayed for the whole world to see? You should be praising Mahama instead of vilifying him. He sent that from Kaswa. Prekese Kwame says, Kwame Aristocrat from Kaswa Old Barry also says, you claim the Ayawaso West Wagon election is the most peaceful and credible by election ever held. Now GM is showing it to the international world for them to applaud Nana Addo to GM get matter for helping showing the world how peaceful and credible the elections are held in Ghana. But coming from a finance minister who went for a loan in a barbering salon in Germany talking about patriotism is very damning. Musa Abatwa in Kumasi says, Senna, I'm not against the Commission of Inquiry, but my problem really has to do with the precedent in respect of Ghana at 50. Ghana 50 ruling by the Court of Appeal, which basically means you cannot base the findings of the Commission to prosecute. However, we know the criminal aspects of the Ayawaso by-election. Nonetheless, from the revelation that is coming up in relation to the Commission sitting, so many contradictions in the testimonies given by the three ministers. Interior Minister says the car that was written that the car that police SWAT bolded written on it doesn't belong to the police. Kandapa said the operation was under the command of police, which is which. The stories are not adding up. Baba Musa Xiaobang Jiang says MPP is full of shameless mandates. If GM is no threat to Akufo-Addo in 2020, why go to court to block him from contesting 2020? It's like saying that an opponent's goalkeeper who is described as very bad keeper, yet same opponents do not want to see the so-called bad goalkeeper in the goalpost in a match. Sad logic. Seth Annan says all those who are accusing GM of showing those horrific footages to the diplomats should bow their heads in shame. Ayu Farouk in Tamale says, good morning. In fact, the outcome of the Commission of Inquiry will be a fiasco due to the inconsistencies of the ministers in charge of security. Albert K. Imbra says, good morning, Senna. Please, let not anyone for any reason take the current security situation in the country for granted. The kidnapping that has started, and the actions of these Tonton Makuts are not in any way different from the situation that preceded the Boko Haram crisis in Nigeria. He sent that from Adenta. Ben Tetevi says, tribal politics is driving our country backwards. Unfortunately, the MPP government is performing badly. Kunalis Johnson Clifford from Ajay Kojo says, good job, Mr. Sana. Please kindly advise our vice president to go for the key from the IGP because we are suffering. Doctors are suffering, teachers are suffering, nurses are suffering, importers are suffering, exporters are suffering, virtually all Ghanaians are suffering. The center can't hold. George Nikwe says, it's always refreshing to listen to ALHAJI and ALHAJI on Saturdays, and now it's more refreshing as I can watch the program on Facebook and see the panelists live. Keep your good work up. He's watching all the way from Tokyo. Cuddling Apefa Mamale says, but Mahama has not even been chosen yet, or don't even know if he will win. If I may say, why take him to court? Well, Natibongo, we got your message. Kenji says, Senna, good morning. Hope you are doing great. My worry is that, Senna, let the NDC get it straight. They should also organize themselves, because I have the feeling that Peace Council and that so-called Christian Council are all bogus. So those are just some of the messages coming through our Facebook platform. Keep them coming. We are on PAP MCGH on Facebook. Alternatively, just search for Sana Numbo. I've shared a video on my wall. You can get to watch what is happening in the studios. But you can also send a WhatsApp message to 0233-995905. This morning, I have in the studio with me Uncle Kwesi Prajini, who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper. You heard lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamakulu open our very first topic for us, having to do with the work of the Commission of Inquiry, what the IGP has said about the vigilante situation. And Mr. Emmanuel Wilson, Director of Communications of the PNC, and I also have Comrade Mutala Ibrahim Mohammed, who is a former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, and keenly interested in the Tamale Central seat. Well, let's go to Mr. Wilson.
All right. So now let me be quick to acknowledge our listeners and our viewers, and to humbly state that I'm a little down with cold, so if my voice is affected, I should be pardoned. Some days back, there was this forum which was organized at the OSU. And let me also use this opportunity to convey the numerous calls that I received after the program from individuals to the effect that if I should meet Uncle Kwesi, I should thank him for the wonderful delivery that he gave. A lot of people fell in love with each and every word that was expressed by him on that day. And I think I have done that now. Unfortunately, today was supposed to be an election in Nigeria. Yeah. But, I mean, it was supposed to be, but unfortunately, just some few hours, it has been postponed. I think this is quite unfortunate. And I'm just praying that the postponement will not create any tension, security tension in the country, because they are our brothers, and whatever happens there will directly and indirectly affect us. Again, a week by now, the NDC will be going to polls to elect their flag bearer. It is important for the NDC delegates to realize that as colleagues or colleague opposition parties, if indeed our aim is to rescue power come 2020 general election, then it will be very important for them to know that one person that stands tall in terms of, in relation to all their flag bearers that they have now, for the purposes of winning 2020 election, is the former president, His Excellency John Mahama. And so, in a form of advice, as a colleague, opposition member or party member, I want to advise them that in electing His Excellency John Mahama, they should be able to do that emphatically. There's a need to communicate that there's unity of purpose. And so a minimum of 85% endorsement should be expected, or is expected, from the delegates of the NDC as they prepare to elect next week, just for the purposes of winning 2020 election. It is quite strange that yesterday into today we are being told that someone has taken His Excellency the former president to court, but Godwin has done justice to that, so I wouldn't want to repeat it. But what is important is that delegates should realize that an emphatic not less than 85% endorsement of His Excellency John Mahama coming next week will go a long way, not just to help the NDC, but to help the entire opposition parties, and also to help this nation as far as the 2020 election is concerned. I remember when this issue of vigilantism started, I was on this same platform with Uncle Kwesi, and our positions were opposites. Indeed, I was of the view that vigilantism itself, there's nothing wrong with it, but it is what is done with it that should be looked at. Now, of course, over time and sitting to reflect on the arguments that were made by Uncle Kwesi then, and with particular attention on what happened at Ayawaso, it is clear that there's really a difference between just knowledge and experience. And I want to state that I share now largely in the arguments and the positions of Uncle Kwesi then, that as a nation, if we do not take care, these vigilante groups and groupings will lead us to somewhere that we will not be able to return. In other words, it will take us to a stage of no return. We have issues as a nation. And for me, the very key issue confronting us has to do with the polarization of our security system, particularly under this government. It is a fact that in this Fourth Republic, if we are talking of the government that has appointed so many individuals to be in charge of security, it is this government. There's no two ways about that. It is also a fact that this government is the only government that is spending so much of the taxpayers' money on individuals who are supposed to be in charge of security in this country. And so logically, it is just fair to conclude or to have that position that if we have as a nation enjoyed security, just for the purposes of argument, we've enjoyed security, let's say about 60% over the past. Under this government, it is just expected that security would have been improved from the 60 to probably 70 or 80, acknowledging the fact that we have so many individuals who have been appointed to take care of security in this country. Unfortunately, it is also speedily becoming a fact that insecurity under this government, every moment and every day, seems to be increasing. You recall just some few weeks ago when I received a threat on my life. when I've closed from work and I'm going home, I was going home, and 2 individuals accosted me in traffic and threatened me. Mine is out because I've had the platforms like this to express it. I know of so many individuals whose are not out. Now, you close from work and you are not even sure whether you are at liberty to visit or to do any other thing. You've placed an embargo on yourself that latest by 6, 7, 8, you should be home. Simply because you are not secured and you don't feel secured. And yet we are supposed to be having so many individuals appointed and then being employed and being paid with the taxes of you and I. When this Ayawaso issue took place, I was taken aback when I saw some of the videos. And one of the videos, there was this guys who were beating individuals, civilians up. Civilians that I'm unable to identify them, as in knowing their names and their location, where they are from. But clearly, these were civilians being beaten up. And there was one of the videos I saw where a policeman in uniform went in to separate those who were having this national security attack from beating these individuals. And one thing that came into my mind was that how come crimes can be committed in the presence of uniformed men and yet arrest cannot be effected? I was thinking that probably by now we would have been given some information as to those individuals that have been arrested. And most importantly, when on that day the commander was interviewed and he spoke boldly and stated that those individuals that were in the national security attack and those individuals that were masked, they do not belong to his outfit. The impression I got, or I have, is that if you're a commander and you've been assigned to a particular jurisdiction, whatever happens there with respect to security, you are 100% in charge of it. And so if strangers comes in and they create the impression that they are in to enforce security and to enforce law and order, and if you are able to identify that these people do not fall under your authority, the first thing I was expecting to have been done is to put a hold on them and find a way of restricting them from doing that. I was expecting the commander to have queried them to find out where they are coming from and who is giving them that authority. And if they are unable to give convincing responses, the commander, I believe it is within his jurisdiction and his powers, to either prevent them, to ensure that they move from that jurisdiction, or to even effect an arrest on them till clearance is given that indeed they are seeking or they are having their authority from a higher and recognized body. Unfortunately, this did not happen. I was surprised when, in all this, and with all the evidence that were very clear and all of us are having, the president decides that we should have a committee or a commission of inquiry. I keep asking a question, and I'm still asking, what is the purpose of the Commission of Inquiry? What is the end result? What are we expecting? Is it for them to assist in identifying who did wrong and who did right? If that is the purpose, then I think that this is not really necessary, because there are more than enough evidence that the police can stand on to start and to initiate a significant investigation. Why should we use the taxpayers' money to constitute a commission to do something that we already have more than enough evidence of? I am still struggling to appreciate the rationale behind this Commission of Inquiry and the constitution of the Commission of Inquiry, and what indeed it is to set to do. You know, I am tempted to believe, and I'm tempted to accept arguments coming from colleagues I have heard over the past days, that look, this committee or this commission is just in to cover up the truth. Because if you have the truth, and the truth is presented to you, and you say that no, you want to constitute another commission, or you want to constitute some other individuals to come out and come and give you the truth, then I'm really wondering your definition of the truth. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because you realize that just after the election taking place, one of the first words that came from the electoral commissioner was that this election has been successful. This election has been free and fair. And I asked again, what is the definition of free and fair election, and what's the definition of successful election? You see, just when Ms. Jane Mensah was appointed, I was one of the few individuals that came out to say that I do not believe that this woman has the competency. She has what it takes to hold that office. And clearly these two elections, one being the referendum and two being the Ayawaso by-election, has really vindicated the position that I had. That an election where less than 20% turnout took place, an election where there was so much insecurity to the extent that the key opposition party decides to boycott the election for fear and on the argument that they cannot protect their members who are coming out to vote, and they cannot protect their agents that they've dispatched to the various polling stations. And yet, less than 20% turnout, we can still be told that this election is a successful and free and fair election. Then I am still asking, what is the definition of free and fair and a successful election? Maybe we should be interrogating to find out from Ms. Jane Mensah, so that as we prepare into the 2020 election, we will all be on the same plane and we will all be on the same level. That with respect to Mrs. Jane Mensah and EC, free and fair election means where invisible persons and where so-called security operatives, whom we can't even identify as we speak, can come and intimidate persons. That will constitute free and fair, successful election. Where we have less than 20% turnout, that will constitute free and fair, successful elections. These are some of the things that I think, as individuals who are key players in Ghana's elections, we should be seeking answers to. So that as we go into the 2020 election, at least we can conscientize our followers and we can let our followers know what to expect and what not to expect. I am still reiterating the position that I do not think that Ms. Jane Mensah is competent enough to run major general elections in this country. I still stand by that position. Now, getting to what these two sit-ins have exposed to all of us. The first has to do with the security ministers that came in. If you listen to them critically, you realize that there are inconsistencies in their submissions. And for me, it brings about two things. Number one, someone is not telling us the truth. Because Mr. Kandapa comes to tell us something, the other person comes to tell us something, which is inconsistent. Brandy Champon also comes to tell us something, which is way inconsistent. And yet these are supposed to be individuals we are paying to take care of our security. And if it is clear from their own submission that they are not even in charge, and they do not, whether they are pretending, they are lying, whatever, the picture from their communication is that they are not in charge. If security personnel or ministers in charge of security are not in charge of activities that falls directly within their domain, then as a nation we are not really safe. And then as a nation, then there's no need for us to have this number of security ministers and officers, and we will still be wasting our taxes paying them. There's something that is not coming out. So far, none of them have been very bold to tell us that they instructed the operations of these persons. And so if they have not, we are still asking ourselves that the police says, no, these are not our men. The Kandapa says, well, I did not instruct them from his submission. That's what you can get out of it. Same with Brian Champo and then the other person. And so if these individuals did not seek or did not have the authority of any superior, and some we can see their faces, why is it that to date they've not been taken on by the police? Why is it that to date these individuals have not been arrested for investigation to take place? The other one has to do with, again, Ms. Jane Mensah's submission. And from her own submission, it was clear that the EC did not go into the Ayawasubai election having a platform of working closely with the security agencies. And so it was like the EC was doing its own thing. The security agencies were also doing their own thing. There was nothing like a coordination. There was nothing like working together to know that, okay, these are the number of security personnel we need, and these are the number of security personnel we are dispatching, and these are the accreditations, and this is how you can identify them. Let us work together. There was nothing like that. But I think that election process is not just about going into vote. Election process goes beyond just going into vote, and it encompasses the security of all individuals who are involved in this process of voting, including the ordinary voter who will come out to come and do the voting. And so if the EC is supposed to be, and that is rightly so what is supposed to be in charge of this entire process, then it is just reasonable that the EC will be closely working with the institutions that are supposed to provide this aspect which has to do with security. Unfortunately, from Ms. Jane Mensah's own submission, nothing like that took place. She says they only submitted a letter to the police. They did not realize, or they didn't know that, or they didn't have in their records that there was any flashpoints in Ayawaso, and so they did not even indicate to the police because there was none as far as they are concerned. Now, the police went ahead to provide security. As to how the security was done, she was not aware of. But we can't go into elections having this kind of attitude being exhibited by a commissioner who is supposed to be the one in charge of our elections. It doesn't work that way. I also listened to the IGP's conference. And look, I was really alarmed. The IGP says that they are not, the men that were masked are not his men. The vehicle that were used, though it has police inscription on it, if you look at the number plate, it doesn't have it. The number plate of a police vehicle. It doesn't have the GP. And so if that is so, I am still asking, how come we've not been able to effect any arrest? How come it is very clear that these individuals, now no one wants to own up and say that I take responsibility, even though Brian Champon initially said that those were his people. But I think after reflecting and getting some advices, his position is gradually changing from that. So how come these individuals cannot be located and cannot be arrested for interrogation or invited for interrogation? I am still wondering why, as a nation, we want to have this kind of attitude with regards to security matters. IGP is calling for the disbandment of vigilante groupings. I agree. As I said earlier on, some time ago, that wasn't my position. But I also agree that we should disband the vigilante groups. Now, in disbanding the vigilante groups, we should go beyond that. To get to the stage where we will be able to have, to a very large extent, particularly with our police service, a service that is to a large extent not dependent or dependent on political influences. You cannot have an IGP being appointed by a government of the day and expect the IGP to act professionally. This has been some of the things that is killing and eating us up as a nation. You cannot have, the very moment you have the IGP saluting the government of the day, that is where you will be able to have a situation where individuals from the government or from the party that forms the government can go to a court and free their member, and you will have leading members of the government and from the party coming out to dare and say that if anyone is a man, that person should go and arrest these kids. And true to the words of these persons, the IGP, the police service, no one is able to do that. And in saying this, I'm not limiting it only to this government. This has been the situation we've been having, at least for the past 2 or 3 governments that we've had in this Fourth Republic. I remember in a Tiwa by-election where individuals were fighting and 3 police guys were standing there. And I went to ask one policeman, are you guys not going to separate this, cause some arrests? These police guys told me that we are waiting for authority from above, instructions from above. There's been instances where policemen have told us, you've gone for functions like public forums and co, and policemen who get the opportunity to speak tells us that when we are lambasting them, tells us that, look, we go and effect arrest and we get instructions from some authorities, from the executives, telling us to let these persons go, and we have no power than to do that. And for me, I think that the reason why we are having all these difficulties is simply because our police service still seems to be having so much reliance on the executive, and for that matter, the political party that has formed the government of the day. Let us look into that as a nation. Let us see how best we will get to the stage where we will realize that a crime is a crime. We don't have anything called political crime and other crimes. If Emmanuel Wilson goes to slap someone else, the first description that will come is that the PNC Director of Communication has gone to slap someone. But we all know that slap is an assault. Why is it that my friend sitting somewhere who is selling on the street somewhere, if he goes to slap, you mention the person's name and say that this person has committed an assault. But when politicians go to engage in the same act, we define it as a political crime. The very moment we do this, we create, an environment for impunity to take place. And so, yes, I support the disbandment of vigilante groupings. And I am waiting to see the incumbent president coming out to say that, look, he also does not support vigilante groupings. He wants his party to disassociate itself from all the groupings that they have. Okay. I'm sure when we start from that tangent, we will be able to prevent what took place in our Yawaso as we move on. Okay. But finally, in all this, what is becoming more scary, Senna, what is becoming more scary is the fact that now you can't even be sure of who is truly a police person. If you are moving and you are stopped by someone who is in uniform, a police uniform, or you are stopped by someone who is in a vehicle branded police vehicle, particularly in the evenings, particularly at a place where you don't have street lights and the place is so dark, how sure am I that in stopping, I am really stopping to legally acknowledge police officers? Okay. How sure am I that those individuals that are stopping me are not hooligans and are not individuals who are just in to attack me? These are the dangers that are being posed from the activities and the inconsistencies that we are receiving now. Okay. If this government is truly committed to ensuring that there's some level of assurance with regards to security. I personally think we don't really need this commission of inquiry. What we need is the police empowered to quickly effect arrest and start serious bipartisan investigation.
Okay.
And when that is done, we will all begin to have some level of hope in our security services.
Mr. Wilson, thank you very much. And before I come to Comrade Murtala Ibrahim, just to quickly announce our WhatsApp number again is 0233995905. 0233995905. And also to tell you that Kulun Ghana Limited is one of the sponsors of this program. And they want me to tell you that if you have heart-related illnesses or you have high blood pressure, just try out their King tablets, K-I-N, King tablets. You can get them at any pharmacy across the country, pharmacy or chemical shop across the country. You can also try out their Hunshun capsules, and they work for if you have prostate-related ailments in men, especially in men. And they also help in the treatment of urinary tract illnesses. That's the Hunshun capsules. Comrade.
Senna, let me say good morning to you and, of course, your cherished listeners and viewers, those on PAB, MC. I think that a lot of people really would love to. Several people have actually sent messages, I guess on Kumasi, that they don't seem to get you guys any longer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could do something about it, because I think this is by far the best talk show program or political interactive program, during the weekends, regardless the desperate attempt of other media houses to want to match. So I think it would be good that many other people across the country also benefit from these discussions that we have had, or we have been having every week. Let me also say good morning to Senior Comrade Kwesi Pratt and my other two brothers who have actually spoken. I just want, and of course the people of Tamale, I can't say this without also sending them my greetings. Senna, I wouldn't have loved to comment on the issue of the court case, the writ against President Mohammed's contest, but just to say briefly that I agree entirely with what my brother said, that it's a calculated attempt. I have been very consistent on this program that the NDC should not impose a candidate on the electorate. The NDC should also not say, or many other people should also not say, that certain candidates should not contest. But we do know that this particular court case, which I will describe as a joke because it won't fly, was not just done by the MPP, it was done by certain individuals also within the NDC. And people should watch. Any candidate who begins to talk on this and thinking that it will be an advantage for him, they should know who indeed actually granted this particular case. That is just what I have to say. The electorates are very clear in their mind, and thank God that this time around, the elections are going to be done at constituencies. So we are hoping and watching to see. I certainly would be in Tamale Central, inshallah, where I will be casting my vote, having effected my transfers already from Nantong to Tamale Central. So I'll be casting my vote, inshallah, in Tamale Central. So now I want to quickly start by saying that I have listened to some interesting, discussion over this matter. There have been discussions as to whether we are safe in this country. And there is no doubt in anybody's mind that the past few weeks in this country have been hugely, I don't know whether I can have any other word to hugely a damaging mess for this country. Globally, we have been a subject of concern by many countries and well-meaning people across the globe who are particularly interested in seeing the democracy we have practiced in this country over 2 decades, which is most often used as a symbol for emulation by many other countries, particularly in Africa. So it has been a messy situation that we have found ourselves. We have a moral duty and a responsibility to see if we can clean mess. And the person who indeed has the responsibility in this is Excellency the President. There have also been some concerns as to whether we indeed need a commission of inquiry into this matter. Some have described that as an attempt by this government to wangle a trick on the people of this country to hide the absolute complicity of the government and his appointees in this mess. After all, the terror groups that are engaged in some of this were terror groups that were formed by Mr. Nanado. He didn't hide it as an opposition leader, and he financed and aided them in opposition. And in government, he's still financing and aiding them. Those terror groups are financed by President Nanado. There's no question at all about that. And they have never had the courage and the confidence to condemn any action that they are engaged in. I've also listened to people who have indeed wondered whether, after all, the NDC as a political party and other opposition parties should also begin looking at arming their people in any form to be able to confront this barbarism that is unleashed on us day in, day out. I don't subscribe to that, but only to take some inspiration from what Machiavelli once said, that there should be war so that people will appreciate the value of peace. As to whether in contemporary decent democratic governance we still would want to look at some of the sayings of Machiavelli. However, you just need to read them and appreciate them and begin asking yourself, how did other countries degenerate to engage in such acts? Do we want to charter that path? My answer to such a question is no. We have agreed to charter the path of democracy, and at any point in time, we must do everything possible to ensure that that democracy thrives. Now, I watched the proceedings and I listened to some of the statements, some of them made also on radio, because it's not all the time that I have the opportunity to watch. But largely, I watch the proceedings on social media, And Senna, to be very honest, there is a saying that clowns are indeed in short demand, recently. But you can find plenty of clowns in politics. And it is disheartening that at a time when people have profound embedded mistrust for politicians, and they are always looking for the opportunity to expose how distrustful we politicians are. The likes of Mr. Kandapa, the likes of Brian Achampong, and the entire government of the MPP are giving people the justification why that embedded mistrust, for politicians should continue unabated. And for me, that is extremely worrying. Before I even get into the matters, I just have a caution for the people of this country. And I would want to suggest, not necessarily to NDC following, but to the so-called swing voters, people who have had investment, people who are law-abiding citizens, who have families, who don't have American and United Kingdom visas like myself and many other people who have no country to move into except Ghana, that electing President Nanado again and the MPP again in 2020 elections would be the clearest march from the slaughterhouse into an open grave. Because what we are experiencing today is nothing but a slaughterhouse. And if we make a mistake and renew the mandate of Mr. President Nanado and the NPP, we may be marching from the slaughterhouse into an open grave. So this is one thing that all of us must indeed take note. Senna, what happened at Ayawaso Wagon, and if you watch the videos or the footages, is a clear reminiscence of what happened in Gaza Strip. A reminiscence of what we see, honestly, in Gaza Strip. That's a fact. You see people, exactly, you see people, unarmed people, who are shot at, because that is what we see in Gaza Strip every day, by people who are armed, who are using state, vehicles and guns and bullets that were bought by myself and you. The taxpayers' money is used to fuel those vehicles, to buy those arms, to buy those bullets. They use them on people. It is also a reminiscence of a state that is ruled by gangsters, frankly speaking, what we experience, in this country today, like what we observed there and subsequent, happenings, is the clearest indication of a state that is ruled by gangsters. Let me also quickly say, I have listened to a lot of people who rush to make comparison between what happens in Ayawasu West Wagon and what happened in Talensi and Etiwa and others. I think that and the cabal of the media and the so-called neutrals who are hiding behind some civil society groups and NGOs and, if you like, gender activists, they always, in an attempt to defend the indefensible, they quickly bring Talensi and Etiwa and say that these things must stop because we experience same in Talensi and others. Let me state in unambiguous terms that you cannot compare what happened in Talensi and other electoral violence with the barbarism we experience at Ayawasu West Wagon. In Talensi and those other electoral violence that we experience in this country have often been a clash between two political parties in an election, notably the NPP and the NDC. None of those incidences who they hypocritically, rush and brazenly make reference to never happened between unarmed citizens of this country, innocent electorates who have gone to cast their votes, and the state. In this case, we are having a state-sponsored terror group that indeed masqueraded as national security operatives, wielding guns bought by the state with our tax money, and also bullets that indeed they use our money to buy, killing and maiming people. And I say killing because they could have killed people at that time. And interestingly, you find a rehearsed response to questions asked by the commissioner. Look, I had a problem with the commission, and I still have a problem with the commission. I don't doubt the credibility of the members of the commission, at least some of them, because some of them clearly they are NPP activists, and you don't expect anything different from. But I don't doubt the credibility of the members of the commission largely, but the rationale behind the constituting the commission for the purposes of unearthing what happened at Ayawasu West Wagon. I listened to Mr. Dr. Kusenin, who is a security expert. He's more clothed with the expertise in security than me. And he lampooned this commission, and he said it was needless. They called the executive secretary to the commission, that brilliant lawyer, a person I respect so much, Kofi Abochi. And he said, yes, he agrees with some of the things Dr. Inin says. But however, because Dr. Inin's position was that if you look at the rulings in previous cases, you may not be in a position to prosecute people on the basis of the testimonies they give. And he said, except that they should have allowed the police, who had indicated publicly that they had commenced investigation into the matter, to go ahead with it. And Kofi Abochi says, yes, they can go ahead with it, but the commission can also still go ahead with the investigation they are doing and can press, criminal charges against those they think, might have committed some wrong. And I say, if this is the case, then why spend the taxpayers' money again to do this exercise? Let me also state and expose the hypocrisy of Mr. Osafumafu, a person who created positions for his children at Senate and also NCA. Those positions were non-existent. That same person came and looked into the frustrated faces of the people of this country, particularly young ones, and those in MPP who fought for the MPP because they were promised they were going to be given jobs. He looked into their faces and said that there are no jobs available for you. Yet
the children have permanent jobs.
Yeah, then he took them. No, but those permanent jobs.
And they're giving them NAPCO.
So you see, he looked into the faces of these people, and now forget of even NDC and other Ghanaians, the NPP people who fought for their party. He looked into their faces and says that we don't have jobs. Yet he has created 2 portfolios in these institutions for his kids, one of whom was a lecturer at Ashasi University, and another person. He brought them and created jobs for them because he must create jobs. This same person who signed a contract without knowing what he signed, and when he was asked, he said that it was written in German, and then he wrote that. But you see, I'm not going to belittle the issues he raised. And the position of the NDC and the President Mahama is that if you think I am painting Ghana black, then stop producing the black paint. Because if you provide the black paint, I'll paint you black. But let us also put it in context. The diplomatic community didn't indeed meet President Mahama first. They met the government. And when they met this government on the incident that happened at Ayawaso, this government sought to blame the NDC. Blame the NDC for it. That was what happened. When they met the MPP blamed this government, this super incompetent and corrupt and violent-prone government, blamed the NDC for what happened at Ayawaso. So that is why you shouldn't be surprised about those lies that are peddled there by these ministers of state. Now, when they blame the NDC for the violence, the diplomatic community then decided to meet President Mahama and the NDC and requested. The NDC didn't ask the diplomatic community, come and meet us. The meeting between the NDC, President Mahama, and the NDC and the diplomatic community was occasioned by the lies that they were told. And as people who wanted to behave neutral and to ascertain what actually happened, just like the commission that is being set up, they said, look, if we have listened to this and the accusation is pointing at the NDC, then we would want to meet the NDC leadership too. That was the reason. And in fact, President Mahama is a stakeholder. He's not just a former president. He's contesting in these elections. So let's get that very, very clearly. Because there are many people out there who do not appreciate this, and they think that, oh, President Mahama shouldn't have done that. President Mahama didn't just ask them, come and meet us. It was in response. And they requested to meet President Mahama. And two, in this country, what is wrong with such people meeting even a stakeholder, major stakeholders in it? I believe if they had met President Kufuor, they wouldn't have complained. They wouldn't have said anything wrong with that. But because they have met President Mahama, and I believe that even if they had met President Rawlings, I don't think that they would have been so much complaining, because these days, whatever even he says, they don't complain, even though he's not saying anything against the NPP. Now, there's another issue that ought to be pointed out, that in 2010, President Nana Addo traveled to the United States of America, specifically in Texas, met businessmen, and he made a statement that was extremely dangerous. He didn't just paint Ghana black. In fact, he used blood to paint this country, and said that the President Mills's administration was favoring Chinese businesses at the expense of American businesses. You know how dangerous that statement was, particularly in our relations with the United States of America's government. He didn't stop there. He traveled to Germany and made similar statement. And you remember the 3 billion loan that we were supposed to get from the Chinese government. He threatened publicly that if they went ahead with that loan facility, and in the event of he winning elections, that he was going to do what? To abrogate that particular contract. That was in 2000, before the 2012 elections. So
on the CDB loan, just for the record, do you know that Setekwe and Co. had to go to China over 20 times? MPP actually went to China.
I had the opportunity to have even participated in one of such meetings in China. And I went to the Chinese Exim Bank. And I still remember the kind of statements that were made on this. Now, these people want to tell us that they love this country. I mean, you don't have the moral right to talk about even this country. You don't.
Even
so this argument...
Their forebears went as far as to tell the Queen to even delay our independence.
Why? They voted against the motion of destiny. So it is not even strange. So I'm saying that. So that argument should also be put out there. I used to have some little respect for Mr. Kandapa. He's an absolute and a pathological liar. And he lies through his teeth without a shame. I hope this coming Sunday, he will go to church, kneel down, and pray and ask God for forgiveness for such lies. Now, this is a person who is in charge of our security as a nation. He appeared before that particular commission, even though he saw videos, footages, he saw everything. He sat there, looked straight into the faces of the commissioners, and looked straight into the faces of disgruntled, miserable, almost 30 million Ghanaians, and lied. I mean, I was flabbergasted, to be very honest, to say the least. Why? He went there and then he even said that I heard. Is that how you should operate as a minister of state?
No, not just an ordinary minister.
In charge of security, I heard. So sometimes, look, I don't want to blame all the people who appeared. I think that Honorable Ambrose Derry, yes, I would want to commend him. He was being truthful. He stated what he knew and what he was informed. And if you observed, the accounts he gave, they corroborated the accounts given by the police. He said when he saw the footages,
he took it.
He forwarded it to the IGP. And he did that because he saw police, the inscription of police SWAT team on that vehicle. And the IGP said, look, these are not my men. And he said, oh, but the vehicle had police SWAT team. Said, no, look at even the number plate. There's no GP.
The inventory.
The inventory is not. So clearly, so if you observe Honorable Ambrose there, he gave an account of what happened. Now listen to the Minister for National Security, Mr. Kandapa. And then he said that, oh, they just shot some guns, 6 bullets. Even some of their media friends, they could count 49 gunshots. And two, he also said that nobody was wounded. I hope they will invite that MP who went to Parliament through the blood of people. They will invite the woman to appear before the commission.
Comrade Mutala.
Because the woman,
do you know that the woman was actually moving with them?
Well, they will invite the woman to the commission. Now, if he claimed that nothing happened, nobody was hurt. Yet that woman went with that gentleman, the deputy minister who was accused for visa racketeering. Went with that my good friend, went with him to the hospital to visit who?
Injured.
To visit people who were injured. Then you sat there and you claim that as far as you are concerned and the information you have, nobody was injured as a result of the so-called 6-gun shots.
He said one person.
One person?
That's what he said.
Wow. When even their own government indicated that several people were injured. When even their own government. Now look at even the account he gave. He said that, oh, the 60 people who were there, I mean, they were made up of 60, the SWAT team, the security and others, 60 in number. That they went there and they realized that there were gunshots from the compound of our candidate. And then when they went there, they arrested 9 people because they had picked intel that there were some arms in a warehouse closer to the house of our MP. And then these 9 people, all the 60 security men abandoned the purpose for which they went there and took the 9 people to the police station. Does it make sense? They abandoned what they were doing. Again, now you listen to a minister for national security, and his account was that, no, the information they got was the reason why they acted the way. And he said, our boys. If you listen to him, Mr. Kandapa said, our boys. Now, if the purpose for the commission is to find out who did that, then Mr. Kandapa, including Brana Champong, are all admitting that they know the people who did that. Why would you spend the taxpayers' money in investigating something which answers are already available? The answers are available. Why would you spend money to investigate such a matter again? And now, even if you look at the listed about Brian Champong, the better. Now, Brian Champong was desperately trying to push the blame somewhere and says that people have been blaming me that I said I sent the man. I never said I sent the man in my capacity as Brian Champong. That the people were sent there by the national security. Well, I don't know what he said. He said, I didn't say that I sent them. If we sit here, this station has management. Now, if anybody to go and engage in any activity, then there must be someone who would give you that task. It doesn't matter whether the decision was taken upon a meeting that they all held and decided that someone should go there. He came out publicly and said that he sent them. The national security sent them. Granted that he never said he as a person sent them. But the outfit in which he is one of the lead members sent them. Now for him to boldly own up, he cannot be hiding, behind semantics. Because he was confident enough to say that he sent those people. There's another thing that I think that we need to look at in all these issues. The accounts given by Mr. Kandapa and the accounts given by the police, that is the district police commander who went there. Because he was there. Now, even before we talk about the accounts given, Mr. Kandapa once again lied fantastically. And the lie, he said that, I asked even the police operation, the deputy police commander of operations, who was asked whether he knew the people on the scene, and he said that no, they are not my men. That he asked the gentleman, and the man said that, Honorable Minister, I just got down from my vehicle, and then they asked me that, so certainly I couldn't have been able to tell them that I knew those people. That was the reason why I provided the answer. This was the statement given, account given by Mr. Kandapa, that liar. This was the account he gave. Now, when the police officer himself appeared there, he said, no, I still do not know the people. I still do not know the people. But Mr. Kandapa was creating the impression as if the man gave that response at the spot when they asked him, because he had just gotten down from his vehicle. The man appeared yesterday and they put same questions to him and said, no, I still do not know the people. So who is telling us the truth? Who? Because all of them cannot be telling us the truth. I am shocked that Brianna Champong is still at post. But you see, Senna, let's be very clear. Everything that is happening is a symptom of a kind of terror that we are going through. We were warned about the presidency of President Nana Addo. We were warned. This warning didn't come from NDC. This warning didn't come from the PNC or from the CPP. This warning came from people closer to him, who told us that they could not sleep in the event of Mr. Nana Addo becoming the president of the Republic of Ghana. Kofi Kumsin said, I will sleep with one eye opened. Mr. Nyaho Tamakulo said 2016 that he wasn't going to vote for him because he's violent. You heard what President Kufuor said when he met MPP, Ashanti regional executives. And everybody at that time knew he was supporting Mr. Alan Chirmantin. And he said that you should vote for somebody who can maintain the peace and stability of this country. Now, I haven't said all those things. Perhaps one would say that yes, it was just political disagreement. You had people who didn't support his bid, or people who had personal problems with him, for which reason they felt that destroying him was enough to give some credence to the candidates that they wanted people to vote, assuming without admitting that all these, statements that were made publicly against his candidacy were statements that were made out of hatred they had for him. Let's analyze what happened under his watch as a president of the Republic of Ghana. At the seat of president, the symbol of our pride and unity as a state, where the president is supposed to operate and sleep, you had the same terror groups who beat up a police officer, Nanka Bruce. The government was not interested in arresting and dealing with those who beat up a police officer. They instead arrested a police officer and a military officer, locked them because they claimed that they took the videos. So what it means is that they never wanted even people to know what was happening there. The question is, have we had similar incidences happening at the Flagstaff House that we do not know? I can bet my last penny and say that perhaps we have had such incidences happening. Now you have the same president under his watch. Your own regional appointee, regional security coordinator, your own terror groups beat the man to pulp. They were arrested. They were being prosecuted in a court of competent jurisdiction. They went and freed this person and nearly lynched the judge. But the police account itself that his interest was the security of the judge. Now those people are walking free. And you know why? The moment they started saying they had arrested people, I said, you see, garbage in, garbage out. When we fraudulently begin to prosecute people with fraud on the basis of no evidence, it will end up that way. They went and arrested people who were nowhere near the court. Immediately after the incident, their leader spoke to the people of this country on radio stations in Kumasi. Why didn't they arrest that gentleman? Why didn't they arrest the gentleman who said that they sent the boys there? They arrested people whom they knew were not there, and they knew that when you go to court, you have to prove with evidence. That was what they did. The same president under his watch. The same president. You have even people at Tema who came on a state function and said that what happened in Kumasi, if they were not given jobs, it's going to be worse. The same person went to when Major Adam was killed. He went there and praised the people and even provided a school for them. As we see today, nobody knows what is happening. I'm saying that we were warned that this man is violent by nature. And clearly, every single action that is taken under his watch points out to that. And those people have been vindicated. So the problems we have today, the challenges we have today, let's stop pretending we all know where those problems are coming from.
Okay.
On the issue of Jean Mensa, look, I have maintained that the woman is an MPP activist. She's a niece to the First Lady. This woman was appointed to do the bidding of the MPP. She's unfit to be the electoral commissioner of this country. And she has demonstrated that. She has demonstrated not absolute incompetence, but her inability to stand up against any attempt to manipulate her by the NPP. And precisely that is what is happening. When I watch the woman lying, that nothing happens there. Kodea, and I'm just told that even the security officers who were sent there, those security officers were forced to write statements that nothing happened to them. Instead, that they had some disagreement and some argument with the so-called national security operatives, the marksmen. What business? Assuming without admitting that Kodea even lied. Assuming without admitting that Jean Mensa lies which he told there were the absolute truth. That yes, nothing happened there. But she herself said that they had argument and disagreements with the people, the Max people. Now, what business? What would have warranted argument between police officers who were sent there officially to man electoral process with such people? You see, they are attempting, and what they are now doing, and the opportunity they had within the time that was an attempt to skunk for strategic way of lying to the people of this country. Unfortunately, God being so good, they have been exposed. But one thing that I want everybody in NDC to understand, that look, the enemy, the political enemy we are confronted with, knows no any difference between President Mahama, between Professor Joshua Alabi, between Dr. Spielgabra, between Mr. Guzitano, between Sly and any other candidates. They treat all of us the same. And those NDC people who think that, yes, we have friends and we must connive with these friends to destroy others because we think that our ambition of wanting to lead the NDC is something that we cannot compromise, I am assuring them that you may get that ambition and they will come at you. Okay. We are facing a challenge. And this challenge is not just about the NDC. It's about the safety and the sanctity of this country. We have become a laughingstock. It is more dangerous to live in this country than many. In fact, I have had people who have indicated to me that, look, Mutala, we were all looking up to Ghana. But the development we are reading, what we are seeing, is something that is extremely striking. Okay. That if indeed Ghana was a country that all of us were looking up to, can degenerate to this level, then it is extremely worrying. I have a simple advice for the Jean Mensa, the electoral commissioner. My simple advice to her is that if there is anything that happens in this country, regards to our elections in 2020, she and President Nana-Addo will be held absolutely responsible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Mutala Ibrahim Mohammed. Before I come to Mr. Pratt, just a few of the messages we are getting from our WhatsApp platform. And this one says, good morning, Senna. I'm Ebenezer from Kwabenya, Welda Junction. As for the senior minister, the least said about him, the better. See who is saying the former president, John Mahama, is painting Ghana black. At times, it is laughable to hear from those who should have known better talking that I don't blame them. I blame those that gave them the power. For some of us, we know their history, so they can't lie to us. If what their militants did were right, why are they worried about JDM showing the evidence to the diplomatic corps? Hypocrisy in the highest level. We are not cowards like them. They should bear in mind. And this one said, Mr. Ho, in actual fact, this man called Nana-Addo is very dangerous and just want to be a ruler of a country. Please, Ghanaians, vote him out 2020. And this one said, the National Patapa Party members Akufo-Addo and their families should rest assured the hoodlums they are rearing in the port at their houses will turn the guns purchased for wrongdoing on themselves very soon. That's one my Kasadufia Airam Pam Pram. This one's a Senna. Good morning. Another this president. Everything is a disaster. Why? By-election, shooting, regional capital violence, tomorrow vigilantes. Hey, Mr. President, did you care for Ghanaians or just for your families and yourself? God is watching you. That's from Stella in Tema. John Terry from Sakumono says, by-election is conducted at Ayawaso West Wagon. Electoral Commission says it was violence-free. Some government officials affirm that it was violence-free. Opposition leader shows videos of the said violence-free elections to diplomats. Government officials and party sympathizers bore. Ghanaians deserve better. Delanyo Agbe in Peduasi says, Senna, in fact, listening to Mr. Kandapa, the security minister, I thought he was one of the hired spin doctors engaging in damage control. Very, very disappointing. Good morning, and good morning to you too. Good morning. It is now very clear that Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, and the entire MPP were being mirrored by John Mahama and the NDC when they called them incompetent. But Akufo-Addo is not incompetent. No, he and his Bawumia simply incapable. Henceforth, please refer to him as such, the incapable Akufo-Addo. From Kofi Kotoka in Tema says, hey, Kandapa, you can lie like this at your age. You are an evil liar. Well, this one's it continues and says, in fact, could you believe that an MPP friend told me we should all put on iron helmet on 7 December 2020? They are celebrating the success of attack behind the scene. NDC, wake up. And this one says, good morning, Radio Gold. Gideon, why is the president not coming out to talk about all the killings that is going on in the lovely country? GM left for him. The good people of the land are waiting for 2020 to show him and families the exit. Have a blessed weekend, you too. This one from Felix AY at the Ghana Technology University College, Tessano, says, Senate security is in Ghana has totally broken down. The account given by Honorable Kandapa explains vividly how we are sitting on a time bomb as a country. Let's assume without admitting that indeed there were weapons in Kwesi Brimpon's house. Is it the police SWAT team or the so-called National Security Appropriate Agency responsible for the seizure of those weapons? Again, how come national security operatives clad in police, how come national security officers were in police armored cars? Anyway, Ghanaians shouldn't be surprised because the leader in charge of this country, well, Ghana under Nanado is more horrible than Afghanistan. And this one, Chris from Ashali says, Senna, when the NPP office was burnt in Savelugu, the police were swift to arrest the perpetrators of that crime. But when citizens were shot at Ayawaso West Wagon by-election, the government set up a commission of inquiry. That's pure wickedness. The love for their party office is deeper. The hypocritical president, Nanado, must go in 2020. Enough is enough. Thank you very much, Chris. Kobito in Kibi says, good morning, Radio Gold. The NPP is not going to election on 2020, but rather going to war with the NDC. And the NDC must play their cards well. Gaddafi in La Paz says, I weep for Ghana whenever I see chiefs and citizens jubilating over trivial creation of new regions and capital cities, whilst citizens suffer to eat, drink potable water, and lack quality education without any better development or impacting our lives. I see no hope for such a country. No wonder Bawumia is the only wise man as pronounced by President Akufo-Addo. Oh Lord, have mercy. And finally, from Baba Abotariye in Ashalibochwe, St. Peter's. Good morning, Senna. Why are we as Ghanaians so surprised about the happenings in the country today? Didn't President Kufuor and the childhood friend of Nanado forewarn us? I remember, quote, I cannot trust the destiny of this country in the hands of Nanado. I cannot sleep. No. Unquote, Kofi Kumsen, come for your stone. Please tell lawyer Tamaklo to reserve his energy because the synonym of Nanado is lawlessness. God save us. For senior minister, the least said about him, the better. Mr. Pratt.
Well, First of all, I think that in spite of the reservations about the Commission of Inquiry and so on, a lot of good appears to be coming out of the Commission. One of the best things that has come out of the Commission so far is that we ordinary mortals are beginning to see our security couples and are listening to them and are seeing how they contradict themselves and so on. That's very instructive. You understand? One thing that is most worrying about the persons in charge of national security is the impression they give that they do not coordinate their efforts, that they don't meet, and so on. Because to have the Minister of State responsible for national security and the Minister for National Security and the Minister of Interior contradicting themselves is a very, very serious warning. You know, it's a very terrible signal. They don't meet. I mean, since this incident happened, they've never met. They don't share the same notes. What is happening to national security? I mean, the impression you get is total chaos in the security establishment. And I'm so very deeply worried about that situation. Indeed, if this Commission of Inquiry had not been set up, and if it had not held its sittings in public, how could we have ever known this? I mean, this is serious. I mean, many people are talking about many things and so on. But simply the lack of coordination, the lack of consultation, the fact that different persons in charge of national security do not appear to be talking to each other and so on. I mean, this is about Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election, small by-election. One constituency out of 275. That's what we're talking about. And look at the chaos, look at the confusion and so on. They can't agree on anything. So how would national security perform if indeed another country decides to wage a war of aggression against us? If this is just happening with violence involving the injury, of course they dispute that figure, injury of 20 people in one constituency out of 275. This is how our national security responds. Then we should be very deeply worried. You understand? That's my worry. Now, some of the things that are coming out of the commission are exceedingly interesting. I have in my hands now the Ghanaian Times of today. And the Ghanaian Times of today publishes two stories about the appearance of Mrs. Jane Mensah, or Jane Mensah, however it is pronounced, at the Commission of Inquiry. Two reports. The first report is carried on page 9 of the paper, and the second report is published on page 16 of the same paper. And I'd like to read the two reports. The first report says, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jane Mensah, has revealed that the commission did not receive briefing from the police on the latter's plan to provide security for the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election that took place last month. Clear statement. They had no briefing from the police. And there's a very serious matter that the national security establishment took no briefing, gave the Electoral Commission no briefing about how they were going to secure ballots and so on. So how did the two institutions work together? They expected to work together. But that's just the first paragraph. Mrs. Mensah told the Emil Short Commission investigating the violence associated with the by-election that despite writing to the police, offering the EC's help to provide briefing to the police personnel to be deployed, the police did not revert. I hope you understand what she's saying. That the EC found it necessary, the Electoral Commission found it necessary to write to the police that they were ready to brief the people they were going to deploy on the elections. You understand? The police refused to respond, just respond to the letter from the Electoral Commission. Now, listen. We did not receive any detailed briefing from them, that is the police, as to how they were going to deploy. So the Electoral Commission had no clue the number of policemen were going to be deployed for the exercise. They did not know where the police people were going to be. They had no idea what the police was going to do in the by-election. And this is in quotation marks. We did not receive any detailed briefing from them as to how they were going to be deployed. Then she continues, also in quotation. They did not provide us with a list of personnel they were sending to each of the polling stations they were going to deploy. This is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission at the Commission of Inquiry. Mrs. Mensah added that there was an initial meeting, watch the words, initial meeting, between the Greater Accra Regional Director of the EC and the Accra Regional Commander of Police. She stated that it was in the meeting that the Regional EC Director provided the police with the locations of their polling stations to enable the police to deploy. Speaking on the violence on the election day, Mrs. Mensah told the Commission of Inquiry that there was no violence at any of the 137 polling stations. Mark it very well. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who the police refused to work with, the commission that the police refused to give any information about the activities on that day and so on, says that there was no violence at any of the 137 polling stations. She emphasized that the disturbances occurred at the residence of the National Democratic Congress candidates. The residence was close to a polling station, so members of the community nearby ran to the La Baliwashi Presby polling station for shelter, Mrs. Mensah noted. This, she added, brought some 45 minutes interruption in the polls, but normalcy was restored. This is the first story, okay? Now, note all the things that she's saying here. One, the Electoral Commission believes that if you do not physically enter a polling station, you cannot affect what happens within the polling station. The Electoral Commission is saying that you can actually go to the house of a candidate, beat the candidate up, possibly kill the candidate and so on, and that it will not affect the elections. The Electoral Commission is telling us that on the day of an election, you can actually go into a community and terrify the people in the community, or go to a radio station several miles away from a community station and announce that if anybody dares go into the polling station, they'll be killed. And that it will have no effect because it didn't happen in the polling station. What logic? I mean, look, is this how we are going to conduct elections in our country? That only things which happen within the precincts of what is described as a polling station matter. So outside the polling station, you can do everything. Now, this is a country in which we have agreed that on the day of the election, I think one day before election and so on, we should stop campaigning. Why did we agree on that? Why did we agree that before elections, a period before elections, nobody should campaign. Of course, the campaign will not be in a polling station. The polling station will not even exist at the time. So why did we come to that conclusion? And the chairperson of our electoral commission says that it doesn't matter. So, but listen to the second one. The second story, which is on page 16, the same person, chairperson of the Electoral Commission, says the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jane Mensah, has insisted that no policeman was physically assaulted at one of the polling stations by a national security operative during the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election. She's emphatic on the police operations for which she received no briefing. She's emphatic on the police operation for which she was not consulted. Police didn't give her any information. They didn't even give her their plan for monitoring the election and so on. And yet, she can sit in front of the commission and make these claims. Appearing on day 2 of the Commission of Inquiry into the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency by-election violence, sitting in Accra yesterday, Madam Mensah said that the report by the polling station presiding officer contradicts the account by Kodio. We received a report that there was an argument between a police officer and national security officers, but there was no physical assault as was stated in the Kodio report. And this is the most important thing for her. You understand? We are told, we have seen videos of masked men, indeed not masked men, masked hooligans and terrorists charging on police officers. And says, oh, they were only arguing with them. It's not a problem. People whose identity cannot be verified and ascertained even by the Minister of National Security. People whose identity cannot be ascertained by the Minister of Interior. And they're wearing masks. They're bearing guns and so on. They go to a polling station, and let us agree with Madam Jane Mensah that they didn't beat up anybody. But they're arguing with police, the police who are properly there and so on. And she says, it's not a problem. They didn't beat anybody. So for there to be a problem, they had to shoot a policeman. They had to beat a policeman for there to be a problem. She doesn't care. Responding to questions on the deployment of marksmen to the various police stations, she said that per the information made available to the commission, the masked national security officers were not part of the security arrangement for the elections. Hey. Master, can you believe this? Masked operatives, not just masked and armed, went on a rampage through the constituency. And she doesn't see it as a problem. She doesn't see it as a problem. I mean, did you hear what she said? That per the information made available to the commission, the masked national security officers were not part of the security arrangements for the elections. That's a point. Then, in quotation marks, I stand by the report I received that there were no masked officers at the polling stations. The shooting incident involving the marksmen happened some 137 meters away from the Labalewashi polling station and only disrupted the elections for 45 minutes. Playing it down. It doesn't matter. And my brother, not 137 kilometers away from the polling station. No. She herself says that this operation took place 137 meters from the polling station, and it's not a problem. Master, if this is the attitude of the Electoral Commission, and this is the attitude we are going to see going forward into 2020 and beyond, this country is in serious trouble. I'm so frightened. I'm so deeply worried. Are you guys not frightened? Are you not worried? That you have the chairperson of the Electoral Commission saying that masked hooligans, armed, can carry out operations 137 meters away from polling stations, and it's not a problem. It doesn't matter. They were not part of the security arrangement, so it's okay. Hey. But you know, I suspect that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission is the only person who has not seen all the videos that all of us have seen. Because I've seen the videos. I've seen the videos in which Sam George was kicked and beaten and so on. And as he was being beaten and people were running away, I could see the booths in which people were voting. I could see it on the video. That video is available for everybody to see and so on. So this chairperson of Electoral Commission is the only person who has not seen these images and so on. You know, I mean, it's incredible. And then we are told that, oh, only one person was injured. First of all, is it okay if one person is injured, only one person is injured, is it okay? But beyond that, I have seen footage. The guy who was lying in the boot of the white pickup, everybody saw it. You know, the other guy who was chased through the crowd, kicked down, and they stamped on his head and so on, and blood was oozing out of his mouth. That makes two. You know, we've all seen this evidence. Why is she making this attempt? You know, nobody can cover the rays of the sun with his or her palm. And that is what this madam is trying to do. She actually believes that she can cover the rays of the sun with her palm and turn this whole earth into darkness. It can't happen. Her palms are too small to be able to obstruct, you know, the rays of the sun from hitting us. And so, now, you know, there are very, very serious questions which have been raised at the commission already. And it happened to be questions about the identity of the persons who were so deployed. Now, the SWAT team at the National Security Secretariat is supposed to be a police SWAT team. The police says emphatically that they don't know the people who were deployed. So who were they? Who were they? You understand? There is something else which came up which not many people have paid attention to. I've heard very little of it in the public commentary. You know, one of the security bosses was asked why the people went there in masks. I hope you guys heard it. What was the answer? That the masks were meant to frighten. So it is clear these people went to intimidate.
Scare people from voting, and that's why they turn out.
They themselves say that they send masked men there to frighten people. To frighten people to do what? To frighten people into voting? Do you frighten people into voting? To scare people away. This is not my word. They said it. That the people had to wear masks so that people will fear them. You understand? Now, I've also heard some very, sometimes you try so hard to find words which are nice and so on. And you can't find those words. I mean, I've heard some extremely silly comparisons. You know, we are told that on one of our independence parades, there were masked special forces on parade. So what has happened in the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election is not new. I mean, how silly can we be? How foolish can we be? My brother, those marksmen on parade on Independence Day were bona fide soldiers, Ghanaian soldiers, belonging to the 64 Infantry Brigade, which has been set up by Parliament. They were a lawful security entity, counter-terrorism body, properly so set up under the direction of the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and directly responsible to the Chief of Defense Staff. Those were the people who paraded on Independence Day. They were not party vigilantes and bandits and crooks, disguised in police uniforms and using fake police vehicles. The vehicles they used on that parade were clearly marked 64 Infantry Brigade. And so there's a huge difference between those forces which paraded on Independence Day and the forces which were deployed to cause mayhem at the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election. I still can't wrap my head around some of the things that happened on that day. The surprise is that the Electoral Commission thinks that everything is fine. Nothing was wrong. It was a very successful election. It was free and it was fair. The turnout is one of the lowest recorded in our history. 19% turnout. The Electoral Commission should be asking themselves, how come that we had 19% turnout? What happened? What were the factors which led to such a very low turnout, in that election and so on? I'm hoping, and I know that all Ghanaians are hoping, that the true facts will be established at the end, of the commission's work. All of us are hoping that. And all of us want to believe that at the end of the commission's work, nothing will be hidden. And that all of us, the commission, will do such a thorough, impartial work. And so on. We are hoping that it will happen. But you see, some other things have happened as a result of all of the things that have happened since the by-election. And one of them is a guy who is described as a security expert. What is his name? I'm still looking for his name. Who has come out to say that ex-President John Dramani Mahama erred when he showed pictures and videos of what had happened to the diplomatic corps. And that they were so gory that he actually ended up destroying the image of Ghana. Hey, Master, I thought you were saying that nothing serious happened. I thought you were saying that only one person, was injured in the house or around the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate. Now, if that is all that was shown to the diplomatic corps, why are we worried about destroying the image of Ghana and so on? And they go on to actually argue that it will prevent it will frighten investors from coming to the country. But nothing happened. So what is frightening the investors from coming into the country? Nothing happened. Only one person was slightly injured. And even that was 137 meters away from the polling station. So it's not a big deal. Unless the argument is being made that the footage and images shown to the diplomatic corps were manufactured. If the former president went and manufactured those things, they didn't reflect the reality and showed to them, then there's a problem. But you say nothing happened, nothing serious happened and so on, and yet the former president is destroying the image of Ghana by showing the reality. What is this? I mean, incredible. But you see, it was my brother Emmanuel Wilson who took on His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for not condemning the violence enough. Master, I think you said so. Master, wait and go and read the condemnations of the same violence by opposition leaders. What are opposition leaders saying? I've heard many of them say that, oh, as for vigilantism, is not all that bad. That there's something very good in vigilantism. Indeed, last Thursday,
I think someone said it on your program.
Hold on. But so why were you condemning Nana Akufo-Addo? Your opposition leaders are worse than Nana Akufo-Addo. Listen to what they are saying. Nana Akufo-Addo is more vehement in his condemnation of the violence than the opposition leaders. I heard an academic last Thursday actually saying that this vigilantism, we have to be very careful with it too, because it has very good size. And that the vigilante groups, listen, and that the vigilante groups actually raise funds for the political parties. They help spread the political ideology of the parties and so on. You heard him, you know, and said so many nice things about the vigilante groups. They are the people who distribute party paraphernalia and so on, and that they are well educated in party ideology and so on. So when it comes to condemning vigilantes and so on, I think that Nana Akufo-Addo does a far better job than some of the opposition leaders. And it's a fact. Look, these opposition leaders, they have to make up their minds. Oh. They have to make up their minds. You either like vigilantes or you don't like vigilantes. This dancing around in the middle and so on is not helping anybody. In any case, if some of them are deluded into thinking that 2020 will come, that the people of Ghana will line up and cast their ballots, and that we will count those ballots Gani, and on the basis of numbers who voted for different political parties declare results, they are deceiving themselves. I can assure them that they are deceiving themselves. That would never happen and has never happened in Ghana. My brother, check results of elections from 1992. Check. You will find that in every election, you will find some polling stations, every election since 1992, you will find polling stations in which number of registered voters was exceeded by actual votes cast. Check. In every election since 1992. Why? The recent elections on the creation of new constituencies and so on. Didn't you see what happened? 95%. Masa, didn't you see what happened? Election officials busily thumbing ballot papers. Thumbing them busy like machines, like automatic machines and so on. We saw all those videos. No, it's true. And see our opposition leaders and how they are behaving. See our opposition leaders and how they are behaving. They don't appear to have any serious commitment to ensuring that the next election will be free and fair. They are too comfortable. Opposition leaders now, they are too comfortable. That's the problem. And I don't know the basis of their comfort. Master, you know, last Thursday, I spoke about what happened in 1992-93. You remember, after the 1992 elections, We had the presidential elections first, and we're going to have the parliamentary elections second. The opposition decided to boycott the parliamentary elections because the opposition stated very clearly that they had no confidence in the Electoral Commission. One of the reasons why they had no confidence in the Electoral Commission was simply because they were all appointed by Chairman Rawlings at the time. Okay? That scenario will repeat itself in the 2020 elections. By December 7, 2021, we go for the elections. All the commissioners will be appointed by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. They will retire. The Constitution gives him the mandate to appoint the commissioners. He will appoint all the commissioners. And look at how opposition leaders are behaving. Master, not just that. Recently, a friend of mine who has been doing some checks and so on informed me that by December 2020, all the heads of departments in the National Electoral Commission will be on retirement. So the president will not just have the golden opportunity to appoint all commissioners, they will have the golden opportunity of also replacing all the heads of departments. Yeah, you understand? All. And the opposition leaders, look at how they are behaving. They can't see the danger ahead. They have closed their eyes, they have closed their ears, they have closed their mouth, they have closed every hole on their body. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look, I also said it last Thursday, I said it, you know, under the laws of Ghana, there is no upper limit for appointments to the Supreme Court. Now, go back and look at the Chachuchikata case and how it was handled. And how additional Supreme Court judges were appointed in the nick of time to come and save the situation and so on. And since this administration came into power, it has appointed 4 new Supreme Court judges, 4 new already. They are sitting there, already. You understand? Now, at least at the level of theory, nothing prevents this administration from appointing another 10, 15, 20 Supreme Court judges. And don't forget that the Supreme Court plays a crucial role in the elections that we organize in this country. Yeah. You understand? Opposition leaders, they can't see this. They are sitting down. They are relaxed. Some of them are actually dozing. That's our reality. That's our reality. You understand? Now, you have a security force which is heavily politicized. And those of us who have been advocating for security of tenure, for security heads and so on, nobody is listening to us, nobody is minding us. In this country, every Inspector General of Police, and it is not about David Apietu, all Inspector Generals of Police know that if the sitting government lose elections, they are going home. You think any Inspector General of Police wants to go home? Think about it. Every head of the armed forces knows that if the government go home, he's going home with them. That's one of our realities. You know, that is one of our realities. And we should be very, very worried about this situation. We should insulate the security services from governmental control, which can translate into lack of confidence and lack of credibility in our electoral processes and so on. We are not doing shilly about it.
We're in difficult, dangerous times.
No, sir, we are not doing anything about it. What happened in the Ayawaso West Wagomba election must be a signal, must be a wake-up call to all of us to begin to act and so on. And then, you know, the other thing that shocks me, the total lack of cooperation amongst the political parties. You know, this thing was announced, the last demonstration was announced as a joint effort of the political parties. And I was happy, you know, that at least the parties are beginning to see the common danger and so on. Of course, the organization of the event itself left a lot to be desired. And I've complained a lot about the fact that the leaders of the NDC did not appear to be yielding any space to the other political parties. If you see how the demonstration was conducted and so on, they were elbowing everybody out. They wanted to be in front, to be seen as the macho men and macho women in charge of the demonstration. That's a problem for joint front action and so on, but they did that. The day after, if you listen to the radio and television stations, you'll be annoyed. It was all about them. Everybody wanted to be seen and to be identified and so on. So they dropped everybody in the process and destroyed the beauty of joint action, of collaborative effort and so on. You understand? That was a problem. But I was even more shocked. You know, I try sometimes in my old age, sometimes to understand what is happening on social media and on the different platforms and so on. And then on the NDC platform, there were many activists who were saying that, oh, why do you want to collaborate with the other parties? We don't need the other parties and so on. Alright? NDC platform. NDC, its platform. I said, my goodness, what is happening here? And then I went on the platforms of the other parties. Everyone was saying, why are you working with NDC? They have always been taking advantage of us, so we should not work with NDC. And so I said, my goodness, what is happening? Master, this is not about NDC and NPP. This is about principle and common sense. You understand? Today, as we sit in the studio, if the new patriotic party is pursuing a cause which is just and reasonable, a cause which is the interest of people of this country, there can be no good reason why the PNC, CPP and others would not commend the new patriotic party for what they are doing and even join them in doing it. Similarly today, if the National Democratic Congress is doing something which is in the interest of the people of Ghana, which would ensure free and transparent elections and so on, why can't we join them to do it? It's about principle. It's about common sense. It's about the protection of our collective interest and so on. This myopic thinking in our politics is very dangerous for the health of democracy and so on. And I'm very deeply worried, you know, about these developments. Now, you see, I've been told, I'm not so sure, but I've been told, you know, by 2020, I spoke about the Supreme Court earlier. By 2020, the current Chief Justice will be leaving. Age will catch her. You can't do anything about it. She'll be leaving. Justice Akoto Banfu, Duke Adaya, same situation. Justice Anthony Benin, and so on. So at least there'll be 3 more vacancies on the Supreme Court. If the president decides to fill those 3 vacancies, the president should have appointed 7 new Supreme Court judges. 7 new.
You have 11 by 2020.
Oh, okay. You understand? And then we are sitting there. And then listen, those who like to play with this whole problem of vigilantism and so on, they should open their eyes and look at the facts. You know, last week we said it here. In this country, according to official security reports, there are 2 million guns. 2 million guns in private hands. 2 million guns in private hands. So, can you imagine what will happen? If the culture of vigilantism continues and so on, and people decide to take the law into their own hands, we have 2 million guns in private hands. But you see, now you don't need even the guns to cause mayhem. And I've said that also repeatedly. All you need is a bottle and some petrol. And the kind of damage you can cause with bottles and petrol, which is available in any filling station. When you are going to buy a gallon of petrol, nobody will ask you what you are going to use it for. You just present your gallon and your money, and you have it. As for empty bottles, Coco Mpe, if you go there, you can buy them in the hundreds and so on. Nobody will ask you any question. You can actually walk into fertilizer shops. You don't have to present your voter ID or any ID to buy fertilizer in this country. And fertilizer is a real potent material for the production of bombs. Fertilizer, ordinary fertilizer. You can actually walk into a drugstore, any drugstore, even the ones they call chemical shop, and buy all the things you need to manufacture potent weapons which can wreak untold hardship to our people and so on. Let us wake up. Let us think. And let us become conscious of the need to protect national security. And national security must be seen as being distinct from MPP security and absolutely distinct from NDC security and CPP security. National security must be seen as that kind of framework which allows all the people of Ghana to go about their legitimate duty without let or hindrance. You understand? That's how we ought to be defining national security. I am very, very deeply frightened about the immediate future of this country. I'm really, really very frightened about the immediate future of this country. And unless all of us rise up and speak with one voice and act in accord to prevent the looming disaster, I don't want to say more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And before I come to your messages, Franco Trading Enterprises, I should tell you that with any amount you can get an original phone to buy from them. They are particularly offering you the Alcatel range of phones. They are trendy and they are modern, but at cheaper prices. You can ask of Alcatel 1, Alcatel U3, and Alcatel tablet. So the prices are affordable. You can walk into any of their branches at Adabraka, they are opposite Roxy Cinema bus stop. At Accra, they are at UTC roundabout behind the Despite building. At La Paz, near Niboy Junction, opposite Prudential Bank. Circle, they are close to Odorais, close to Odorais actually. Also, they are opposite Eco Bank, Oxford Street. Tema, they are opposite Waterworks at Community 1. Madina, they are on the old road opposite HFC Bank. Hacho, they are opposite Hacho Station. Koforidua, they are on the All Nations University College Road. Ho, they are on the Market Road opposite Amagashi Building. Kaswa, they are opposite the Kaswa Polyclinic. You can call them on 0302 225 651 0302 225 651. You can also alternative 0546 133 188 0546 133 188. Franco Trading phone Pepe fee. And also we have an announcement here from the police, and it says John Ofosu of his house number is unknown, but lives at Aplaku Ayalolo, came to the police station and reported that on 7th February 2019 at about 1 p.m. he returned home from work and detected that his house help by name Millicent Awuku, also known as Makafui, who is 19 years old, had packed some of her belongings and left home and has since not returned. All efforts to trace her have proven futile. Millicent is dark in complexion and she speaks Ewe Twi English. She is an Ewe. Anyone who has information about her should please call John Ofosu on 0246 370 325 0246 370 325 or 055 42 844 144. A handsome reward. That is coming from the Ghana Police Service. And a couple of your messages on Facebook. We have quite a flood of them, a lot to go through on Facebook alone. Well, this one for Amina Al-Hassan says, if you look at a baby's mouth, you will be able to tell his eating pattern when he grows. The Iowa West Wagon by-election has set the tone for election 2020. Michael Setrofia says, in fact, listening to these conflicting tales from our security ministers, I can... no, that is unclear. Evangelist Christopher Mensah Gamali says, MPP is sending our beautiful democracy back. Ghanaians reject them come 2020. Hussein Osmanu says, Senator, the entire MPP party and government is a threat to our democracy. The lies and contradictions being told by all those who appear before the commission is just a manifestation of how Ghanaians have elected a mess as a president. Allah save us. Otumfo, the convener of Crossfire Ghana, says, what is the commission trying to investigate? The slapping, the masked men, or what? Yes, they are asking questions, but Kwatin Echampon is there to cover up for the government. Looking at this line of question, I think the NDC should not boycott the commission. God bless President Mahama for showing the video. Charles Nyami at Asamankese says, events at the Emil Short Commission so far have only confirmed the claim and position of the NDC that our security system under Kenneth regime is very polarized, rendering the country highly unsafe. In Ghana now, you hardly know who is a police officer and who is not. All because the MPP militants, ably supported by the president, have taken over. Ghana deserves better. Jane Williams is making an announcement, says the Central Constituency KLM branch boot for boot work for His Excellency JDM on Sunday, 17 February, starting point, Community 4 Police Station, Sharp. Well, Agahoa Julius Tahiro says, Senator Ambrose Derry said police embossment on the vehicle that took the hooded men does not belong to the Ghana Police Service. Really? Are they saying that those terrorists came there with their own vehicle branded in police SWAT colors and inscriptions? This shows how the NDC was right not to endorse the commission logic. I don't think going around the bush is the answer. The person who deployed them is alive. They should go after them. Jerry Ajay says, good morning, Senator Nombo and your esteemed panelists. I have said it elsewhere and will say it for emphasis that the lies being told at the Waste of State Resources Commission doesn't surprise a dot. But my worry and worry of many Ghanaians is the consequences of tomorrow. We have seen the unprecedented number of appointed men and women in charge of security in our history, but we have the worst form of insecurity under the clueless leadership of Nana Addo. So the big question which arises in the midst of all this is it worth the huge state resources being used to service these men and women? God save Ghana from Nana Addo and his family and friends government. 2020 is possible together. Asili Tetefio Benjamin says, the video I saw on social media and evidence the so-called police service, Kandapa, a national security minister at the presidency, are all telling lies. I think the former President Mahama is on course to show the video to diplomats. So this pathological lies will go to church tomorrow. God send your anger on them. Rene Oklu says, please Ghana, why don't the whole country amass to demonstrate for the disarming and disbanding of this and other such groups? If Ghanaians think their security is threatened, then the actions must surpass the talk. Sheriff Al-Islam says, may Allah bless you, Uncle Kwesi Pratt, and reward you with Islam as your last word before you depart to his place. Frank K. Frank K. Esh says, NDC has to stand firm, very strong. Else, just my small advice, because we have to win 2020. Massa, all hands on deck. Kukia Benedictus says, these people are just planning things that will not help Ghanaians. we have to start going to market and let people know what is coming to happen. Legend boy Aminu Gaucho says, minority should never apologize to Mrs. Lydia, and we are going to match whoever think he is more Ghanaian than us, boot for boot. Hashtag GM, listening live in Ivory Coast. And Ken G says, Senna, good morning. Okay, I think I've read this before. William Amanu says, to what extent does this wheat against the M's affect his eligibility to contest next week presidential primaries? That's
no way at all. It's important that I make this point very clear. The rate does not in any way affect the eligibility at all. And let me make this point very, very clear to the listeners of Radio Good and to the delegates of our party. It does not. In fact, the most important thing is in 2016, the same eligibility that GM had, the same eligibility that he's going into the election of 2020 with. Like I indicated to you earlier, this rate is a collaboration between the national security, really, to have this whole process, just as it were to confuse the delegates of our party. So I would entreat them, with the greatest respect to them, to discard the rates altogether. It is as frivolous as anything.
Are you saying that they should discard it?
No, I mean, no.
Answer to the rate should vote massively for the person.
No. That's what I'm saying, that in order to show the national security that you are aware of their ploy, vote massively for John Dramani Mahama.
But you know something else? I mean, yes, every citizen is entitled to file a writ, to go to court, to seek whatever reliefs and so on. But the merits of the writ will be determined first, you understand? And one of the issues of merit would be the capacity of the court to make those determinations that is called upon to make. For example, it will have to be decided whether or not the High Court is clothed with jurisdiction over the interpretation of the Constitution and so on. So this is going to be a very interesting week, or maybe a couple of weeks, you understand? I mean, we are going to be told whether indeed the High Court has jurisdiction over the interpretation of the Constitution. And I'm waiting to see how the courts will react.
But Uncle Kwesi, more importantly, so this whole thing is brought today, I mean now, because of the week left for the election. And the way it is going to be played out, the NDC other aspirant will now carry this to the delegates to now say, you see, we told you, if you vote for this man, he will not be, quote unquote, he will be stopped by the court. So it is a well-rehearsed plot by the national security to confuse the minds of delegates. But if it's a plot,
that plot can also collapse.
No, and it has collapsed.
To the advantage
absolutely. Now what the delegates are basically saying is that they have seen it.
As to whether or not the court has jurisdiction or doesn't have jurisdiction.
So the delegates,
that can happen before the voting on Saturday.
The timing, because of the rules of court, but more importantly, even the delegates are even saying it, that, oh, look, they have seen the plot, and that they are going to resist this ploy by the national security by voting massively.
He himself has remedies.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
He himself has remedies. Given the fact that the voting is on Saturday,
that is so.
You know, he can apply for expeditious, handling of the case, and it's allowed in law, isn't it?
Uncle Kwesi, well, those strategies you cannot basically, but the most important thing is that delegates of our party who are listening, we have barely 7 days. And the most important thing at the end is that you need to vote massively for John Dramani Mahama to destroy this plot by the national security.
Well, some of your messages, and Abigail Tego says that, can all opposition parties stop the executive appointments of electoral commissioners and judicial heads, please? That's the question she's asking.
Cannot. They cannot. But they can act in ways which makes it difficult for even persons appointed by government to demonstrate open bias.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Senako, you know, this issue of this court started, I mean, on Metro TV. Coincidentally, I was on the program with the MP for Second D sometime last year. And he said on the program that in fact, he questioned the eligibility of President Mahama to contest. So this is something the MPP has been, you know, rehearsing. They've been planning for this, not today. But I think for me, if you ask me, there should be a closure to it. As a matter of fact, there isn't any basis on which President Mahama will not be qualified to contest. But like my brother said, it's just an attempted last straw so that people would say that, okay, we mustn't even vote for him in the first place. Because if you are talking about interpreting the law, it should be the Supreme Court.
Quite clearly, jurisdictional issues. But the lawyer himself would know that, look, this thing is just a flaw. Because if you look at the constitutional provision that they put in the rate, you can see that, first of all, interpretation enforcement is the exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, but they are doing it deliberately because of Saturday.
Yeah, that's what they are doing.
It's just deliberate, just to create uncertainty.
No, but the shocker
and
is
so that's why the delegates of our party
must. If you think President Mahama is not capable of defeating
Nana,
if you think that President Mahama cannot defeat Nana, I don't know why they're worried.
Honorable, do you know that the National Security actually did a recent poll together with the BNI, and after the poll they realized that if elections are called today, then Nanado will be out of power. And so now their biggest headache is how then do you stop our biggest quote-unquote adversary here, which is John Dramani Mahama. And we need to work hard. And first of all, you need to have a certain leadership response, and that is where John Mahama comes in. And so the delegates must do it massively.
Well, Golden Salem says, from the hearing ongoing at the commission, it's obvious we are not safe in this country. Very sad, our tax are being used to pay 3 incompetent men. Catherine Fiano says, Brian Champo has admitted that the hoodlums are his boys. There's no need for any commission of inquiry because they are all telling plain lies. I felt so bad listening to Honorable Kandapa. I respected him so much. Socrates Cicero says, I think the commission should trace the violence to the doorsteps of the president. Now, Costa Anani says, so Mutala, let me ask you this simple question. You use the tag, Nana is a violent person, and this cost you the 2016 election. Won't you learn sense a bit to change your style of win voters?
It's so funny that people would what cost me the elections if they don't have an appreciation of what happens. I don't think he's a very violent person, and I'm not the one saying it. People closer to him. It doesn't matter whether we have elections, we don't have elections.
Where is Mr.
People closer to him said
that. I just lost my WhatsApp messages. Yes. Time is way past, by the way, but just a few more of the messages and then we'll close. And this one says, good morning, Radio God. I want to ask Honorable Kandapa that if people were not shot and wounded, who are those who visited who were visited by Lydia Larson? That's from Eden in Sakumono, and says, good morning to Senna and your panel. My regards to the incoming Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Comrade Mutala. Senna GM showing the video to the diplomats was in the right direction. Osaf Mafo forgot of the numerous lectures Bawumia organized to deceive the world on how corrupt JDM was and how this country was mismanaged. You think that benefited this country in any way? After all the lies leveled on the NDC and this country, GM just showed the world how your president is terrorizing innocent citizens, and who knows if real terrorists are planning to be used to the advantage. JM was only seeking for any assistance in case the monsters Nanado and his government are brewing strike. That's from Shamsuddin in Tamale Kanvili. And it says, Ghanaians, we are not safe under the MPP. We should get ready for attack on the country if IGP do not know the police in the police car. So those are just some of the messages you have been sending into the program. And this one is from Lucky Levete, and it says I should say a good morning to Mr.
How are you?
He said I should say a good morning to Mr. Ibrahim Mahama and also to Mr. Richard. I think Mr. Richard knows himself. And so that's coming from Lucky Levete. And this one was sent in by Stephen Kobnato very early on in the program. It says, good morning, Senna. Following the evidence laid before the Commission of Inquiry over the past 2 days, it is obvious the entire Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election was clearly used to practice a certain plan in place. Unfortunately for the president, even though everything we saw was meant for 2020, it came too early and had exposed his plans to his huge embarrassment. If today we are being told by the police that the vehicles with embossed Ghana police logos are not known vehicles for the service, what should we trust again? How can we even trust anyone who wears a police uniform and approaches in their duties? With all these embarrassing events, the government had acquired black paint, mixed it, placed a branch inside it, scooped the paint on the brush, and gave to John Mahama to go painting. And they expected a white outcome. You simply cannot understand these people. Have a wonderful day. You too, Stephen Kobnato sent in that one. And Kokuma Linanegbe says, Senna, we are in very interesting times, aren't we? I remember the MPP in opposition espoused a position during the 2014 Brazil World Cup inquiry that Honorable Elvis Efrianka should have been sacked and not to be at the presidency when the World Cup inquiry was going on. So by that principle, why is Barney Champo in the face of this new inquiry still at the presidency and not sacked? As for the contradictions, they are so legendary in the submissions of those who so far appeared before the Commission of Inquiry. That's from Koku Mauli Nanegbe. Kojochumba sense is a late one, but he says the MPP is calling DMM patriotic for showing the diplomatic corps the truth about Akufo-Addo's gangsters and brigands. So the MPP should tell us what they are giving, what they are, given the fact that John Benjamin, the then UK High Commissioner, was in lockstep with them during the 2016 election.
You remember Craig Murray, the famous Craig Murray. He was having collaborative meetings with Kufuor in opposition, and when they came, they awarded him a contract. It's in the WikiLeaks reports.
Well, Fred Nadenta says, good morning, Senator. The current EC chairperson present a clear danger in 2020, but I am amazed at the posturing for the first time. EC is challenging a Kodeo report. I can't think far. And finally, quite a long one, says, my personal mind of the current level of insecurity in Ghana, I dare to say that the blame of whatever security problems we face today in Ghana should be shared partially by ex-President Mahama. When he was the president, he removed the best security capos and replaced them with non-performing security heads. Under Mahama's new security heads, the MPP was able to form militia groups, trained and armed their supporters in the full glare of these security heads. When the security capos even got a lead of the development, they approached the whole issue in a very lackadaisical manner. It was even more shocking than that just after the elections, when it was clear the MPP had won the election, these hoodlums went straight into action, vandalizing properties and forcing people out of their office, even when Mahama was yet to hand over. Remember the toll booth and lorry station incidents even before the handing over? The security capos under Mahama could not even act to ensure the arrest and detention of these criminals for outright prosecution. They just went dead, doing nothing, but rather leaving these criminals encouraged to operate with impunity even before the handing over. No wonder, on the day of the handing over, ASP Nanka Bruce was openly assaulted in the full glare of security officers by the very militia created by the MPP. An officer of the Kotoka International Airport who decided to stop this behavior at the airport was followed up and shot at his home. Mahama cannot escape any blame in this mess today. That's coming from Ezina Kojo Adjoe. And that is his point, and that should end the program.
There's no basis for laying this claim at the doorstep of John Dramani Mahama. It's important to make this point that even with these vigilante groups, actions were taken. Some were in fact taken to court.
Okay. So Mobile Water is one of our sponsors. They want you to take advantage of their instant refill door-to-door delivery service, as they are 20-liter bottles. Just choose the Mobile Water 20-liter bottles. Give them a call and ask them you want to be a customer of their 20-liter bottles instant refill door-to-door delivery service. Call them on 0244 650 939 0244 650 939. If you are able to, just visit them at Tema Headlight Industrial Area behind McBaron Hotel, Aplau Road. Drink mobile water. And of course, one of our sponsors is Kulun Ghana Limited. They are also offering a range of products. Mr. Q for vitality and for men who want to improve their sexual performance. Skin tablets if you have heart-related illnesses and you also have high blood pressure. Get yourself KIN tablets, KIN tablets. If you are a woman, you have menstrual issues, get Arababas. And you can also get Hunchun capsules if you have prostate-related ailments. They help in the treatment of urinary tract illnesses too. So just go to any licensed pharmacy nationwide or chemical shop and you get these products. And with Franco Trading Enterprise, if you buy anything from them online, they give you a 30% discount. Just go to www.francotrading.com or www.francophones.com and buy from their online shop, and the phone will be delivered free within Accra. And you also get a 30% discount. So take advantage of that opportunity. A big thank you to Uncle Kwesi Prajinia, who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper. Also lawyer Godwin Edwiji Tamaklo is a private legal practitioner. Mr. Emmanuel Wilson is director of communications of the People's National Convention. Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is the former deputy minister of Trade and Industry, and is keenly interested in the Tamale Central seat. Well, Emmanuel Wilson is also convener of COIS, a group that was recently formed, and they've started some action. Show is produced by Patrick Asford Boidu. My name is Senna Nombo. It was live on PAB MCGH. A big thank you to the technical department, Mr. Kwanzaa, and now Peter Kumasata, and also to John Batintora and his men. Have a wonderful weekend.